The thudding footsteps of a man dragging a blood-soaked spear. Bloody. The crowd ahead whispered to each other in terror. A monster? No, that's a real demon. He's the rumored Spear King. He's coming this way. The commander yelled, "It's only one enemy, don't be afraid." He then pointed his sword forward and ordered his soldiers, "If we just kill him, we'll win. Come on, brothers, let us charge together." With a single leap, their spears clattered uselessly against each other. The commander gasped in terror, "What the—" Before he could react, the legendary Spear King had already flown up and pierced the man's head in front of all his soldiers. The soldiers tried to fight back in vain. "Die, you bastard! I'll die fighting you." They charged forward in unison, thrusting their spears at Suji. But for him, this was just an innate instinct, or something he had trained for every day. It was all too easy to counter. After all, he had taken far too many lives. With just a spear in his hand, even though he was the one who survived it all. In the end, the resentment and fury of those who had died, the one once called trash, lost his life on the battlefield. It was the best possible end to his tragic life. Tragic. But was it a trick of fate? Or a preordained destiny? After his death, a new life was resurrected. As a child, it was Suji reborn. And just like that, the trash that everyone once mocked had returned to the past. The story begins with our main character having been reborn back into his own teenage body. After waking up, he was completely bewildered. So I didn't have to be reincarnated as a baby. Just then, he noticed a mirror nearby. Suji was stunned to see his own young face. And in the mirror, looks like I've been reborn as a teenager. If that's the case, this must be when I was still an errand boy for the escort agency. Just then a voice yelled out, "You bastard!" Suji turned, his eyes filled with annoyance. It was a chaotic battle scene nearby. A whole group of people were viciously brawling. "Die, protect the goods at all costs. Don't let them take a single thing." Suji realized it was the mountain bandits. The Tiger Escort Agency was being robbed by mountain bandits. He stood there, not getting involved, and muttered to himself, "I can't believe that right after being reborn, I'm already back on a battlefield." He noticed a figure behind him. The man smashed the mirror that Suji had just been looking into. The man crept up from behind. He was a head taller than Suji. "What's a little kid like you doing here? I don't think you're an escort guard. An errand boy or something." Suji turned his head and immediately recognized him as a mountain bandit. They were forest dwellers, who specialize in ambushing to rob and kill. But his eyes were trembling and his body was stiff. Most of them are just mediocre amateurs. Mediocre. With just a quick glance, he could analyze the man's strength. The man now flew into a rage. "It doesn't matter if you're an errand, a boy, or an escort guard. If you're with the escort agency, you have to die." With that, the man swung a spear hard at Suji. "All of you have to die for me." Suji was strangely calm. He just gently parried the spear and said, "I knew it. Your movements are too predictable." A teenager's hand, straight and firm, grabbed the handle of the spear. He was strong and decisive. He snatched the spear from the bandit. A skillful move. Suji pointed the spear straight at his opponent. With one simple thrust, he pierced through his left chest. In pain, he was still stunned at being finished off so quickly. This guy." With a spurt, red blood splattered everywhere. The bandit's last regretful words were, "Are you kidding me?" Now before the bandit, Suji had completely returned to the aura of a famous Spear King. With his skills unchanged, he told himself, "Even though I have no achievements now, I still have my martial arts." Then letting out a sinister breath, Suji said, "This is enough." Inside his body now was a demonic entity. It was because of that thing that Suji was so strong. He thought, even though everyone despises the martial arts I use, even calling them evil arts, I have no other choice now. With that thought, he just hefted the spear with the man still impaled on it onto his shoulder and walked away. Behind him, another person was hiding behind a tree. Suji muttered to himself, "I've returned to the past." But suddenly the person behind the tree made a noise. Suji immediately turned on guard. He charged forward and shot an arrow straight at Suji. "Die, you scum!" This guy packed quite a punch. That arrow flew straight at Suji's head. After attacking, he revealed a very amateurish look. His hands and feet trembled as he shouted, "Serves you right!" But right after that, the man was hit by another of Suji's spear thrusts. He was heavily injured and yelled, "What the—" Just then, with a stone-cold expression, Suji whispered in his ear, "I anticipated an ambush. But is this all it is?" One spear impaled both of them. He was worthy of his title as a legendary Spear King from his past life. He said, "Not confirming an enemy's death on the battlefield is suicide." He then twisted the spear deeper into the wound. "Ugh!" Carrying two bodies on his shoulder, he turned and said, Now the spear has its original weight back." And now, Suji turned his head to look at the Tiger Escort Agency members. "This feeling is just like the old days. A long trail of blood marked the path Suji walked. The mountain bandits here were all terrified and on guard. What is that? What the hell is going on with him? They gritted their teeth and stared as Suji approached. Soon he was standing in the middle of the bandits. They whispered, in fear as they saw their comrades dead, on the blade of Suji's spear. Look at him. Suddenly a large figure approached. What's going on? Who is this crazy guy? It was the leader of this group of mountain bandits. He was huge, and had a giant axe as a weapon. As soon as he appeared, he started yelling to assert his authority. Listen up. I am the leader of the bandits on this mountain. But Suji paid him no mind at all. Oh, I'm looking forward to this. The man screamed as if he'd gone mad. I'll wipe that smile off your face. With that, he charged forward with his massive body to attack. Suji with a downward axe swing. But his attitude was extremely calm. Suji just needed to gently dodge to the side, and the axe struck one of his own comrades. The man, having just witnessed Suji's speed and agility, was also terrified. Haha, dodging like a rat! Suddenly his eyes changed, showing obvious fear. The two corpses of his comrades were flying towards him, accompanied by Suji's voice. Your physical strength is truly impressive. But is that all you've got? The mountain bandit could only gasp in horror as he saw the two corpses take the brunt of his own blow. Before he even realized where Suji was, he had already been split in two by him. A completely bewildered look on his face. A long spray of blood flew past Suji's face. He then raised his voice. Let me show you what a real attack is. Just then, the surrounding mountain bandits were also terrified. Just one blow, he's a monster. Hey, don't push me like that! He impaled another person to make the spear heavier, but Suji still felt something was off. Why does it feel so light all of a sudden? So he decided to thrust the spear straight into the throat of the bandit. The big, tall mountain bandits on this side were sweating like crazy. Suji said, now this is better. That made the spear heavy enough for Suji to carry on his shoulder. This made them turn pale with absolute terror. They knew they couldn't possibly win, so they all ran away. Run! He's a monster. And so when blood and demons met on the battlefield, time turned back 15 years, and right on that demonic mountain, that guy Suji, the legendary spear king of that era, had truly returned. Until nightfall, in this forest, the group from the Tiger Escort Agency was still fighting tirelessly against the mountain bandits. These people reminded each other, don't let any of them escape. Kill them all for me. At that moment, Suji alone carried the spear with 3 bodies on it walking through the chaotic battle. It seemed no one noticed his presence. All around were crazed screams. The tide is turning in our favor. We can't let those bandits survive. The 3 bodies on Suji's shoulder became 3 wandering souls that clung to the spear on Suji's shoulder. Suddenly, someone from the Tiger Escort Agency was thrown against Suji's spear. A large man in this group was wildly slashing at people. He shouted, "You arrogant bounty hunters! Who do you think you're killing, huh?" These ghosts continuously cried out for help. This guy, enraged, continued to roar. "If you think you can, then try it." The ghosts of the 3 men right behind Suji, they screamed right next to his ears. "Him! Ego was our former boss. Please come back to our side." From the ghosts' ramblings, Suji finally understood. So that's it. That guy is your leader, huh? He's certainly a cut above those small fries. All right, I'll grant your wish. He will also be... A ghost right next to Suji leaned into his ear. "The boss is strong. Recruit him too." Suji flashed a grotesque smile. He said, "Devour." At this moment, their boss, Ego, was spiritedly taking on 10 members of the Tiger Escort Agency by himself. "Di-ha-ha-ha!" His ghostly comrades screamed, calling out Ego's name. As soon as he heard the call from Suji's direction, he turned his head. "Hey, who do you think you are calling my name like that, huh?" He immediately swung his sword at Suji. He just gently ducked and countered. He never expected Suji to be so strong. So strong. That teenage body made the huge man fall to the ground. "Damn it! Who the hell are you?" Standing before him, Suji carried the spear with 3 corpses behind him. The man had to be terrified. "What the hell are you crazy? Who is this?" He hung a guy on his spear. Now he realized this was the real deal, not some pushover. He was so scared he pissed himself. He was silent for a long time, not daring to say a word. The ghosts of his comrades continuously screamed, wanting him to join them in the other world. "Why are you the only one left alive? Get over here." "Ego," this sinister voice emanated. They called for Ego again. "Ego, Ego!" The man had to be terrified. Even though his body was large, his spirit was powerfully shaken. Tears streamed down his face. "Who are you? Are you a demon?" Appearing before him, Suji's face contorted continuously. He exhaled a black smoke that looked terrifying. "Let's go together." And then came the blood-curdling screams of Ego. "Please, please save me." Suji's entire body seemed to be enveloped by a large, fierce demon. He was the powerful embodiment of the most evil thing right now. With one thrust, it went straight through Ego's head. You could see the terrifyingly cold expression on Suji's face. The man's head flew off. Blood splattered onto Suji's face. He looked down. By just calling their name 3 times, you can send a soul to the underworld. Standing before the pile of bodies lying on the ground, Suji held his spear and said, "Within those 3 calls, the target will be dragged to their death." His voice was a whisper. It's been a long time since I've used this. Recalling Suji's past life. At a giant sheer cliff, the place was deserted, not a soul in sight. There was Suji, struggling to climb up a rock face. He had been lucky to escape death in a great disaster. He clawed and scraped his way up. Damn it! Just because I'm a rookie, they push all this tough reconnaissance work on me. Is that it? Suji collapsed against a large rock out of breath. Damn army. They said if I joined, I wouldn't starve anymore. But how is this any different from when I was a slave? But right behind him, a terrifying evil aura was approaching. Suddenly feeling something was wrong, Suji glanced over, trembling. Behind him was a dark shadow. The air was thick with the foul stench of evil energy. Suji was so startled he couldn't speak. What is this? What's over there? A ghost or a demon? Whatever it is, I absolutely cannot turn around. Suji's face was covered in sweat. His whole body was trying to calm itself. Terrified, he was shaking uncontrollably. But he tried to suppress it, so the thing behind him wouldn't realize that he was scared. He whispered to himself, that's something I shouldn't have seen. I'm not going to die a meaningless death in a place like this. Don't turn back, don't turn back. But suddenly right behind him a sinister voice spoke out. And what do you think you're trying to survive for? He bit his lip, trying to stay silent. That terrifying voice, with its cold and arrogant tone. Your life is no different from an insect's. So why not take a gamble? Maybe this is your chance to change that pathetic fate. Pathetic. Suji trembled. Gathering all his courage, he finally turned around and asked nonchalantly, and why should I believe words like that? It was an old man with a long beard and white hair. He was even more terrifying than a ghost, and he suddenly burst out laughing. Ha ha ha, you've got guts, what's your name? Then summoning all his courage, he spoke bluntly to the ghostly old man. The ghost. Suji. As soon as he heard that, he suddenly asked again, what did you just say? Suji, annoyed, gritted his teeth and yelled, I said it's Suji. That was the second time he said his name. The old man continued to ask him one more time. I'll ask you one more time. What is your name? At that time, Suji didn't understand this technique. He said, I'm Su. But just as he said that, he was grabbed by the neck by this old man. With one hand, he could lift Suji, a healthy young man. He gasped for breath, trying to grit his teeth and hold on. Suji was also terrified of this frightening man. In a single breath, he had crossed that entire distance. I didn't even see him move. And this man was the one who granted him the power of a demon. More than that, he was Suji's master. He then revealed his true form. Above him was a demon. Black smoke with red eyes, nose, and mouth appeared before him. He spoke in a demonic voice, if you want to kill someone, call their name 3 times. No matter what their answer is, you can still kill anyone. So the old master, with a face full of scars, had passed on a ridiculously overpowered ability to him. This person was the embodiment of evil in the martial arts world. The blood demon Go-Kokufu. Returning to the present, he was wiping out the mountain bandits. They were being brutally tortured by him. The path was lined with fresh red blood. Suji acted very naturally. As he walked, he cut down lives like they were weeds. He thought, this is strange. Over here, 2 mountain bandits charged forward together. Die, you monster. But Suji still had that strange thought. Strangely enough, my mind is clearer than ever. At this point, he powerfully stabbed 2 men at once with one hand, finishing off 2 birds with 1 stone. He simply stood the spear up and muttered to himself, the demon power that Kokufu gave me was originally incomplete. The seed of demonic power has taken root in my dantian. It was supposed to seep into my bones and cloud my mind, but now I feel refreshed. Closing his eyes, Suji thought to himself, has this changed? At this moment, the demonic orb inside Suji's body lit up. The souls he killed also gathered around it. Suji was focusing his energy. The spiritual energy from the orb gradually moved up his body. It ran straight to his brain. That flow of energy ran down his limbs to enhance his strength. Just then, Suji's eyes flew open. He stared straight ahead and realized, that's right, the difference. Compared to the last time I received this power, I forgot about it after joining the army. But when I was young, I learned a breathing technique. Thinking about this, Suji looked at his 2 hands, which were brimming with demonic energy. He muttered, so that's it? Thanks to that, I can maintain my consciousness and a clear head. What a strange coincidence, remembering his master's words from before. Until you completely master this power, you won't be able to maintain your sanity. Now in the present, Suji chuckled. If Kokufu knew about this, I don't... Know what kind of face he'd make? While he was still contemplating and thinking about his own abilities, suddenly someone approached. Hey! This startled Suji. He slowly glanced back to see who it was. Right behind. Suji was the entire delegation of the Tiger Escort Agency. They thanked him earnestly. Thank you for saving us from a dangerous situation. The woman in the lead sneakily glanced up. Looking ahead, she muttered to herself, I knew it. Just him standing there, the pressure is terrifying. He cut down every single bandit. I can't let him leave. Suji turned around his body, radiating a powerful aura, and asked, what is it? The woman spoke up and answered, I don't understand why someone like you is working as an errand boy for our escort agency. But if it's not too presumptuous, could you continue to help us? But Suji bluntly said, I refuse. This made the female leader freeze speechless. What? He then proudly turned his back and walked away. Suji was cold. If you have nothing else for me, I'm leaving. The woman had a sly look on her face. No, I can't let him leave like this. If he won't join. With that thought at that moment, she reached into her chest to pull something out. She approached Suji's location. Then I'll have to... It seemed like she was going to ambush him or something. But she changed her tune in an instant. She presented a shining plaque. Please take this with you. At that moment, the leader spoke to Suji with great sincerity. You probably already know, but the Tiger sect is behind this escort agency. It's a renowned sect in Anhui. If you bring this command token to the Tiger sect, you will be welcomed as an honored guest. After saying that, she bowed respectfully and offered the golden plaque to Suji with both hands. The woman continued, please accept it as a token of my sincerity. This made him feel even more awkward. On the plaque was inscribed, Tiger Sect First Escort. Liu Suka. Suji just glanced down at the plaque. Suji thought for a long time. He didn't say anything. The Tiger Sect is famous for its integrity and honesty, but just a few years later they disappeared without a trace. A tragic sect. Overall, the sect is all right. Suji took the plaque from the leader's hands. She was overjoyed. Thank you very much. At that moment, the woman leading the group bowed respectfully before him and continued, we will return to our duties. When we are finished, we will come back to welcome you again. Please make yourself at home in the meantime. But Suji still had a cold attitude. He casually grabbed a nearby horse. Got it. By the way, I'm borrowing a horse too. Then, suddenly the female leader turned around in a panic and yelled, not that one, its temperament is too wild. So we were going to... She thought that Suji wouldn't be able to control this difficult horse. But to her surprise, when she looked, she saw that he and the horse had already gone a long way. The female leader was shocked, speechless, unable to finish her sentence. Let it pull the cart instead. A person next to her chimed in, but somehow, it's completely obedient now. Then he suddenly saw that this horse was even trembling in fear. It was peeing as it walked. These people were shocked and terrified. Hey, did that horse just piss its pants? Just then, looking at Suji's retreating back, the woman said, haha, and at that age, he even has horseback riding skills. What a monster. The guy behind her could see the teasing look on the female leader's face. He chimed in, oh my. Could this be love at first sight? He's exactly your type, isn't he? A strong and handsome man. Maybe that's going a little too far. At that moment, the female leader turned back with a chilling aura and even drew her sword. Don't talk like that about our savior. Do you want to die? The man flinched and trembled. No, I was just kidding, I'm sorry. She just drew her sword to scare him into stopping his teasing. She slammed her sword back and said loudly, you all didn't see what just happened. But I did. His spearmanship? So the leader looked out. The people who were no longer breathing after being tormented by Suji. Everyone was terrified. They silently observed the cruel sword strokes. Horrifying. A man next to the woman wondered, could he be the son of a noble family that specializes in spears? She resolutely said no. That's not martial arts. It's military spearmanship, and with a level of understanding that far exceeds his age. Just then the soldier next to her realized. Don't tell me you're saying... The woman just gently nodded and followed Suji's figure with her eyes as he gradually moved away. That's right. Her voice became more dangerous and wary. Most likely, he is the son of a powerful military family on a warrior's journey. After completing his training, she was trying her best to act cool, but in reality she was completely wrong. The female leader continued to judge his personality. The fact that he risked his life to save us, if he knew about the danger to this sect, he definitely wouldn't ignore it. With that, she closed her eyes and took a long, deep breath. She thought to herself, so please save the Tiger sect from the clutches of the Dark sect. The scene switches back to Suji. The horse was still very scared. Its legs were trembling as it walked. It was peeing as it walked, almost flooding the forest. He was annoyed. Hey, if you pee again, I'll cut it off so you can't pee anymore. He rode the horse down the road, looking out at the escort agency. he muttered, speaking of the tiger sect. It should still exist now, right? I wonder how he's doing. That guy Aiku. In Suji's mind, he suddenly remembered a character from his past life. Recounting a story from his past life, Aiku was the first person Suji met after enlisting, the first person he truly bonded with in his past life. At the barracks, a group of soldiers were brawling with each other. All were the sounds of thuds and bangs from the fight. Back then, Suji was being bullied by this group of guys. One of them kicked him hard and yelled, "You think a newbie? Like you can just eat without paying any tribute." Suji refused to back down. He shot back, "Tribute? That's the first I'm hearing of it." But this big, ugly-faced guy was a classic bully, preying on the weak. He cracked his knuckles and said condescendingly, "Newbies have to give their food to the seniors. That's the rule. Unless you want a beating. You better remember that." Just then, someone else walked over. He had a rock in his hand, tossing it up and down as he chimed in, "What a stupid rule. And if he just got here, that would make me the newest one, right?" he said. The man held up the rock and flashed a totally badass grin. "So you're not planning on taking my food, are you?" Seeing this guy, the troublemaker got pissed. "You've got a lot of nerve. All right, then let me smash that rotten face of yours." But just as he said that, the young man forcefully threw the potato, distorting his face. That bossy bastard was furious. Wait, was that a potato? Before he could react, Aiku, Suji's friend from his past life, rushed forward and landed another punch. "Here, eat up. Fill your stomach, if you still have any teeth left." Instantly, he unleashed a flurry of punches on that big fleshy face. Aiku was nothing short of a monster. The despicable bully didn't even have time to react. He fell back in pain. After this, Aiku only stopped when he saw the guy couldn't fight back anymore. Holding a potato, he warned the others, "You all ganged up on him. Looks like you guys haven't had enough potatoes. Anyone else want some? Step right up. I'll knock out every last one of your teeth. Does anyone else want some potatoes?" The people around quickly scattered. No, we're good. Let's go." Over here, Suji stood up and said, "You shouldn't have interfered. I was saving you," he said, which took Aiku by surprise. Then he bit off half the potato with one hand and threw the other half to Suji with the other. He said, "Eat if you want to live." Catching the other half of the potato, Suji looked at him with a lot on his mind. That was the first time they met. While chewing on the potato, Aiku said, "You heard him earlier, right? I'm your senior." Suji's face was cold, still skeptical. When he first met Aiku, he introduced himself to Suji. "I'm Go Aiku. What's your name?" And that was Suji's only comrade. No, a sworn brother to be exact. For the first time, our main character felt the warmth of a friend. He couldn't stop staring. "I'm Suji." Then one day, while they were struggling to survive, a blood demon named Kokofu appeared. Aiku was there and immediately charged. This was the moment Suji was grabbed by the neck by Kokofu. Aiku saw it and ran over, yelling, "Let him go, or I'll shoot this flare at you." Realizing this guy was dangerous and not easy to deal with, Suji repeatedly screamed warnings to Aiku. "No, don't come here, run." Aiku gritted his teeth, clutching the flare pouch in his hand as he threatened. "Old man, I said let him go." But this damn demon was not one to be trifled with. He turned back with glowing red eyes that were utterly terrifying. "Fine, do as you wish, then I'll let him go." This directly challenged Aiku. He furiously charged forward to attack him. At the same time, Kokofu reached out his hand as if to catch him. Aiku gathered all his strength ready to rescue Suji. He screamed wildly. In contrast to Aiku's youthful demeanor, Kokofu was as calm as an autumn breeze. He just slightly smirked and said in a low voice, "What's wrong? I gave you what you wanted." Not satisfied, he wildly held the flare pouch, about to leap forward and bite him. Aiku could no longer contain his emotions. "You son of a bitch." But just as he was about to throw it, Suji's voice yelled out, "Stop!" Aiku turned his head and was completely shocked. Kokofu had mercilessly let Suji fall into the abyss, but luckily Suji managed to grab onto a rock ledge and save his life. He tried to shout back, "I'm okay, don't worry about me." "Just run," Kokofu said. "I don't plan on killing you right away, so shut up and listen. I have a proposal for you two. If you bring me a certain herb that can heal internal injuries, in return I will grant you the power to survive." The two brothers fell silent upon hearing this. It seemed they were sharing the same thought and the same hope. He continued to press them, his voice a hoarse, threatening tone. "So what is your answer?" Suji and Aiku glanced at each other. They both nodded as if they understood each other. After all, it's not like we have any other choice. And in the end, they both accepted the offer. Then Kokofu turned and walked into the cave. So the two of them were unharmed. They just stood there dumbfounded, watching Kokofu's next move. Kokofu said, "Your eyesight isn't half bad. There are beings known as insatiable demons. They are the souls of humans eaten by tigers, who fall into the emptiness of demonhood. They are fiery spirits that become minions, offering other souls to elevate their master's spiritual realm. The demonic arts are based on a similar principle. They absorb the karma of the dead to increase their spiritual cultivation. This technique is called the art of the insatiable demon. This art has 3 stages: the compression stage, the refinement stage, and the transcendence stage. Each stage consists of 10 levels. Upon reaching the compression stage, one can release demonic energy like steam. In the refinement stage, your blood will turn into a poisonous gas. When the demonic energy is released, it looks like splattering blood. The next step is to reach the transcendence stage. I once trampled the world under my feet, climbing to the 4th level of the refinement stage. And at that point, good and evil, even demons no longer meant anything to me. So engrave my teachings in your hearts. Go to the battlefield and slaughter relentlessly. That is how you will gain the strength to change your fate. Both of them took Kokofu's teachings to heart. Aiku and Tsuji heard and understood everything. On the battlefield, the two were in perfect sync. They only needed to call each other's name to know what to do. The two of them were fighting against a large army. Aiku and Tsuji stood back to back, each handling one side to deal with everything. We will survive, no matter what happens. They had always been diligently taught by Kokofu. By now, both had submitted to the demonic path. He sat imposingly above them and said, "These are the final terms. This time you both must retrieve a 100-year-old white ginseng. Can you do it?" Tsuji didn't hesitate. He looked up. Of course. Before he could finish, Aiku suddenly shouted, "Wait." Then he respectfully addressed Kokofu. "The white ginseng is beyond our capabilities. Before that, could you help us open our 2 meridians, the Ren and Du? To explain to you all, the Ren and Du are the 2 central meridians for circulating chi in the body." This request from Aiku made Kokofu ponder for a moment. He narrowed his old eyes and looked down. Aiku continued to explain more clearly. "If you use the existing materials to open those 2 meridians, we will be able to get the final medicinal ingredient ourselves. We will replenish the missing herbs later." It seemed Kokofu was deep in thought. He didn't answer right away. Then he suddenly said, "Very well." Aiku and Tsuji were very surprised by this. They looked at each other, mouths agape. Aiku looked over at Tsuji and said quietly, "Tsuji, you go first." But he flatly refused, not wanting to go alone. "No way." Aiku gritted his teeth in frustration. "I told you go first and open your meridians. I'll go gather more herbs then, and then you'll be able to get the herb." Aiku then turned to persuade Tsuji again. Going together is always difficult. He added with a knowing smile. He began to ponder. He had to accept it now. He let out a sigh and said, "All right, whatever." So they understood each other. They fist-bumped and said in unison, "Got it." After Tsuji went out first to open his meridians, he was dragging himself back covered in injuries. He returned as the rain fell, blood staining his every step. Tsuji, panting heavily in the cold, soaking rain. He was in immense pain trying to make his way back to the cave. "I did it. I've gathered all the herbs. Brother Master, everything will be all right." But everything that should have been all right was not when he returned home. He saw a sight that he could never have anticipated. His master's head had rolled onto the ground. He had even been meditating. Who did this? Then he saw the figure sitting right next to his master. It was none other than Aiku. His whole body was trembling and covered in blood. He looked up and said, "So you've finally shown up." Aiku, still holding the sword stained with his master's blood. He smiled and called out, "Tsuji." Tsuji was now completely stunned. He didn't understand what was happening and screamed, "What is this?" He then threw down all the herbs that he had struggled to bring back. He ran into the cave towards his senior brother, shouting, "Aiku!" Aiku was very weak by now. Tsuji quickly supported his body. Tsuji asked frantically, "What is this?" "What happened?" Aiku tried to suppress his pain and whispered, "Don't make such a fuss. You already knew, didn't you? Kokofu never intended for us to live from the beginning, so we had to strike before we were killed. That's all." Only then did he realize. "You mean that's why you made me go first? Is that right?" He thought. All of his acupuncture points have been destroyed. His demonic energy has also completely vanished, so he planned to commit suicide from the very beginning. At this moment, Aiku stepped forward and looked at Tsuji with unbearable remorse. Tsuji could no longer hold back his emotions. He grimaced and shed tears of pain, as the only friend he had in the world was about to pass away. Aiku said in his dying breath, "Hey, don't cry. Killing a half-dead old man is nothing. Hey, Tsuji, do you know why I let you live?" Tsuji, his mind in turmoil, said blankly, "How would I know?" Aiku then said sincerely, "Because you were once a warrior of the Tiger Supervisory Bureau." Hearing this, Tsuji lowered his eyes and looked at Aiku with affection. Aiku continued, "I am the last surviving member of the Hyelma sect, which was annihilated. You once said you were a warrior for the Tiger Supervisory Bureau for a while? Right, and you once said the master and madam of the Hyelma sect were good people. I think it was from that moment that I began to see you as family. You were the only one who ever spoke of my parents with such respect." At this point, Aiku's body grew weaker. He clenched his fist and held it up to Tsuji. "I'm really glad I met you. If you get the chance, please avenge me. In that moment, he tightly gripped Aiku's fist, as if willingly, accepting the promise for Aiku. Returning to the present, Suji gripped the horse's reins. He had now traveled to Anhui City. As he rode, he thought, in this life, I will make it so that hatred never has a chance to exist. The first thing I must do is prevent the annihilation of the Go family. Before I save the Tiger Supervisory Bureau their financial source. So maybe the timeline has already started to change. But that's not enough. Soon Suji arrived at his destination. He looked up at the gate. Is this the place? He then dismounted the horse, landing lightly. He casually asked a nearby passerby, hey. The man turned blushing, then startled, what is it? Suji beckoned with his index finger and asked coldly, I just want to ask one thing. Suji's attitude annoyed the butcher. He was already in a bad mood to begin with. He shoved him and yelled, don't mess with me. Punk, who do you think you're talking to? Some nameless kid who appeared out of nowhere. But just as he said that, Suji grabbed the man's head tightly. The man yelped in fear as Suji said menacingly, shut your mouth and answer my question. After a thorough beating, his face all swollen, he finally learned his lesson. Suji stood before him and asked directly, it's been a while since I've returned to Anhui. That small estate over there is the Hyolma sect. Is that correct? The man immediately nodded. Yes, sir. Yes, that's right. Suji then continued. The master is Go-geon and the madam is Sagyun. Is that correct? The man, his face full of fear, yelled, Yes, exactly. Suji continued to ask for more clarity. So their son is named Go-aiku, is that right? The fat man immediately denied it upon hearing this. No, that's not right. This completely surprised Suji. He let out a loud, and asked again, are you saying their child is not Go-aiku? The fat man nodded, stuttering in fear. Yes, that's right, but Suji was starting to question reality. He thought for a long time. Don't tell me that going back in time has actually changed reality. As I once knew it. Impossible, I checked everything else. Everything matches my previous life. So what's going on? He grabbed the ugly butcher's collar again and warned, you better tell me the whole truth. What if I go there and actually find someone named Aiku? What then? In that case, the man, terrified, hastily said, of course there is. Already annoyed he had to deal with this wishy-washy guy. Suji was fuming. Didn't you just say that wasn't right? The man retorted in frustration, you just asked if the master and madam had a son named Aiku. Didn't you? Suji mumbled, yeah, that's right. Then the butcher exploded in frustration, screaming, why would you turn a young lady into a man before she's even had a chance to get married? The Hyolma sect has no son, only a single daughter. This truth shocked Suji even more. The man screamed in his face, young lady Aiku is a woman unbelievable. Suji was completely terrified and surprised. He couldn't imagine how this situation would unfold next. He was hoping to be reunited with a close friend, one who had faced life and death with him. But when he sought out his friend's family, he found out his brother was a girl. Suji's mood completely plummeted. This is ridiculous. Aiku is a woman. He kept scratching his head, scratching all over his body, never having expected this twist. Just then he pulled out a plaque from the other day. As he walked, he muttered to himself, if I show them the golden plaque, I can enter the Hyolma sect to verify. But doing so will affect the plan. There must be another way. Suddenly, while wandering, a man opened a door and rushed out. He yelled, hey! Suji was startled and looked over. The man pointed his finger and turned red, his ears steaming with rage. You damn brat, finally showing your face like nothing happened. The man grabbed Suji's collar. Then he started acting like a mother hen. This is why you cannot entrust work to a wanderer, like you. Suji maintained his cold demeanor. The man grimaced in annoyance. I told you to clean the horse manure. So why did you run off, huh? He dragged him straight into the house. As he dragged him, he cursed. Where are the others? This dog is too heavy. The rest of you get out here. Suji let him do whatever he wanted. He thought, a wanderer seems like there's a misunderstanding here, but this is actually perfect. And just like that, Suji was dragged into the stables by the fat man. He stood before him and gave a clear order. Listen carefully, I am Wuson, the stable manager of the Hyolma sect. Your job is just to clean manure and feed the horses, under my authority. The fat man continued to act superior, looking down on him. It's better than living on the streets, right? I explained everything 2 days ago. Do you remember? Suji replied curtly, don't know. The manager went crazy again. Don't know. He turned his head to examine him. Then he went on a rant about his intelligence. Terrible as it is, you still talk back to an adult. This kid's got a problem. Eating scraps and sleeping in the stables. You can't even remember that? After saying that, he went crazy again. He leaned in close to him and whined. You are the kind of people the sect doesn't need. But the master took pity on you. He took in orphans like you. People like you. So don't run away just because it's hard. Do your job properly. But Suji just coldly replied with 2 words, got it. Outside, there was a loud clattering sound. He He quickly turned his head to look. It turned out to be a horse outside the fence, intending to cause trouble. It kicked its hooves and jumped inside, immediately breaking the wall. The manager was kicked by the horse and rolled on the ground. He clutched his leg and screamed. This horse seemed to be acting abnormally. Its whole body was crimson. Was something agitating it? Suji simply kept his distance from the black horse. He watched it wreak havoc and speculated. Why is the horse suddenly like this? Where did it come from? Inside the horse enclosure, everyone was in a frenzy because of the horse that was rampaging out of nowhere. Even Suji was curious. In the distance were two men. A pale-faced young master looked on with amusement. It's a first-class horse, all right. These two guys looked rich. One was a pale-faced young master. The other was his bodyguard. The noble-looking young master waved his fan and said, I spent enough money to buy a mansion, but it's still hard to tame it. So fierce. The guard with the sword stepped forward and said, Young master, it seems one of the kids in the stables has been injured. But hearing this, the young master valued the horse more than people. He waved his fan back and forth and casually declared, They're no better than dogs. Throw them some scraps and let's go. So the manager was seriously injured and had to be carried away by two stable hands. They were carried away. They looked at the fan-wielding young master with anger, but they only dared to curse under their breath. It's that psycho Gyo from the Gyo estate again. What is he doing here again? Suji took notice of this. He glanced over and thought, In my past life I heard Aiku talk about him. He's the one behind the fall of the Hyulma sect. At this moment, the young master and his incident were making him very pleased. He waved his fan continuously and said in a loud voice, Just seeing them makes my clothes feel dirty. But as he was in front of the Hyulma sect's gate, someone came out. I heard we have a guest, so I rushed over. I didn't expect it to be the young master of the Gyo family. The master of the Hyulma sect Gogion. He had come out in person. What are you doing here? As soon as he saw the sect master, this young master Gyo bowed respectfully. I only have one reason to be here, respected father-in-law. Of course he lifted his playboy face and cleared his throat. I came to visit my future fiancée. As soon as his beloved daughter was mentioned, the Hyulma sect master showed his displeasure with a loud humph. If you're talking about Aiku, I don't recall agreeing to any marriage. He looked up at his future father-in-law, at least according to the young master. He was again arrogant. Maybe so for now, but when Aiku turns 16, I will hold the wedding. For some reason, the sect master Gyo couldn't do anything about this young master's words. He couldn't do anything more. He clenched his teeth, trying to endure his anger. After speaking, he snapped his fan shut. Then he started to speak disrespectfully. The wedding between me and Aiku next year has become the talk of the town. Even the village children are singing congratulatory songs for me. The sect master was blunt and clearly disgusted with the young master's cunning face. He was cunning. You're the one who spread that rumor, just to ruin my daughter's future. Being hit where it hurts, he was a little startled. But then he quickly revealed the clear attitude of a villain. Sect master, are you kidding me? The Gyo family is not at all inferior to the Go family. Do you think we'd go to all that trouble just to save the daughter of the Hyulma sect? These words further enraged the sect master. He widened his eyes and said, What did you say? You impudent punk! Just then a clear voice rang out. Then that's fine. At this moment, the young master and the sect master turned in surprise. All eyes were on the owner of this voice. The sect master's beloved daughter had appeared. She appeared in a long pink dress. She said, In that case, there will be no engagement between our two families. As soon as the young master saw Aiku, his jaw dropped. His face flushed, his heart pounded, and his legs trembled. Even the guard behind him was mesmerized. As soon as his daughter appeared, fearing something bad would happen, the sect master sighed. He didn't want anything bad to happen here. The daughter of the Hyulma sect master Go Aiku had just appeared. She had a beauty as lovely as a flower. She walked as gracefully as a spring breeze. As soon as she appeared, a faint, sweet scent filled the air. She was like a moving flower. She said, Please don't bother me anymore. Please find someone else. But this stubborn young master wasn't going to let Aiku off so easily. He fanned himself vigorously and coughed a few times to clear his throat. Do you know how dangerous rumors can be? Aiku said, There's nothing to talk about. Aiku now stood beside her father. She spoke decisively to this insolent man's face. I have no intention of marrying you, or anyone from the Gyo estate. Please leave now. Then she and her father left, not bothering to speak to the young master anymore. From outside, he shouted in a loud, arrogant voice, While your family's sect is on the verge of bankruptcy, you're still as arrogant as ever, his guard asked. What do we do now, young master? At this point, the ugly young master revealed a vicious expression and whispered to his guard. Anyway, I was just stopping by on my way to the brothel. Let's go. He turned his back and left the Hyulma sect. The man named Gyo put his arm around the guard's neck and said excitedly, She's just like the rumors, isn't she? In fact, she's even more beautiful than the rumors. This pale-faced young master had a perverted look on his face, as he said, "Now you understand why I'm so infatuated with her, don't you? With that beauty. They say Aiku is a beauty that could topple nations." The guard beside him also marveled. A beauty that could topple cities. It's not even an exaggeration. Looking at the Hyolma sect, the man named Gyo looked up and said, "A beautiful woman without power or money is destined for a tragic fate. She's too beautiful to be the daughter of the Hyolma sect. She must also resent her fate for being born there." After saying that, he narcissistically turned to his guard. "But it's too late. A handsome villain like me has already set his sights on you," the guard said in a slick, cruel voice. "Poor girl." Ha ha ha. At that moment, they yanked hard on the reins and shouted in unison, "To the brothel." But strangely, the horse remained still as a statue. The young master looked down, puzzled. What's this? Why won't it move?" The nearby guard didn't understand what was happening either. He checked the horse. Is it sick or something? Then he suddenly realized there was something wrong with his horse. It was foaming at the mouth and its face was turning purple. The man screamed. Immediately the horse collapsed to the ground. The young master sitting on top took a nasty fall. He started screaming his head off. The guard rushed over to help the young master. He landed hard on his butt, with no idea why the horse had problems. He yelled, "Why did the horse suddenly collapse like that? Where are the stable boys?" From behind, the figure of Suji was nearby. In his hand he held the liver, still dripping with the horse's blood. He had used the fox demon's magic, the art of liver stealing. Suji turned and whispered, "It's useless. I took its liver without a trace. You'll never know why that horse died." But it was all because of him. It turned out Zhao Taihan was the real cause of everything. Aika, don't tell me the fall of the Tiger's Lair sect was because of a power struggle with sect leader Zhao. But in reality, he was the one pulling the strings from the shadows. Did IQ know that? Of course she knew. That's why. She saw her own beauty as a curse. Thinking about this, Suji's heart couldn't take it anymore. He angrily crushed the horse liver in his hand, completely furious and resentful, on behalf of his friend from a past life. He thought to himself, now I understand why she burned her own face. He, without any hesitation, would get revenge for his sworn brother. And so Suji moved as fast as lightning. Young Master Zhao and his guard were still in a panic. He quickly jumped from inside the mansion onto the walls. From now on, I'll act fast. Suji leaped onto a nearby tree branch. He watched the movements of the two shameless scoundrels while they remained completely unaware. Still carefree, they whispered to each other on their way to the brothel. Scene changed to Anhui Province, Naimatsu County. This is Suji's shadow. He was striding down the street. All around were the sounds of singing and partying. Dinner's ready. Hey, everyone drunk again. Get out of here now. How dare you talk to your husband like that? Suji wandered through the streets. He moved silently in the shadows. He then came to a sealed house. Before the door, on the sign of the sealed shop, it was a store that sold farming tools. After a quick look, Suji sighed. It's been a while since I've been back here, he said, then opened the door and stepped inside. Inside was the figure of a man and a large vat. Everything inside was broken. The man asked, "Who are you?" Suji's gaze hardened. He only said two words, Suji. The old man was missing a leg and an arm and was badly injured. He was drowning his sorrows sipping from a wine flask alone in the ruined house. He looked up and said, "That name doesn't ring a bell." "I don't think so. Now get lost." Yes, but Suji remained very calm. He sat down right in front of the old man. "I know, just forge me a hammer." The man was dismissive. He nonchalantly took another swig of wine. "Huh. You serious?" Suji said, "Make me a handle 17 hammerheads. 4 of the heads should be spherical." Suji said to keep the weight under 10. Upon hearing this, he looked up in surprise. Then he spoke seriously to him. "You can't hammer nails with that kind of hammer." But Suji was blunt. "I'm not using it for nails." The man tilted his head, understanding, and asked, "Anything else?" Suji began to elaborate, 2 18.5 long using crocodile skin. "And I need a properly forged heavy weapon." Hearing this, he accepted the job for Suji. The man asked further, "A sword, an axe, or a spear?" Suji replied coldly and quickly, "A spear." At this, the man in the ruined forge suddenly got ticked off. He slammed a wooden plank, causing chaos in front of Suji. It revealed a hidden item. He then pointed the plank at a nearby spear. He said, "This is the best weapon I have. It'll take a day to sharpen the blade." Suji's attitude was calm, even though this blacksmith was very insolent. "All right. Do you have any small, sharp weapons?" He slammed another wooden crate right where Suji was sitting. "Of course I do." The crate right under Suji's butt was full of iron. He looked over. "Iron Caltrip's niece, I'll take all of this." Now completely serious about the work, the man asked immediately, "Where should I deliver it?" Suji replied cautiously, "I'll come pick it up myself." With that, he stared straight into Suji's face with his one eye. and observed, "You seem like you're fired up, but this is going to cost you a pretty penny." He asked directly, "Just name your price." After a long silence, the man thought without saying anything in front of Suji. He grimaced and recounted, 3 days ago my daughter died." Suji noted this and almost understood the blacksmith's intention. The old man saw Suji's strength, that he was no ordinary person. He looked up with his bloody face and asked quietly, "Is there any way to bring her back?" The pain of a father who lost his child was still raw. That rough hand rested on Suji's shoulder. He saw this tragic situation and thought for a long time. The man now spoke directly. "The smell of blood on you is so strong. I thought you were a ghost, but probably not. In that case, kill the ones who killed my little girl for me." Suji pushed himself up with his hands and asked, "Who killed your daughter?" The man answered mournfully, "The Black Blade sect." This sect was not a good bunch either. As soon as he heard it, Suji held his head. He turned around, got it. As he turned to leave, the disabled man in the forge yelled out, his voice filled with hope. "There are 4 of them. They call them the 4 pillars of the Black Blade. Listen carefully, listen up." Suddenly, all over Suji's body, a terrifying demonic aura emanated. The metallic smell of blood radiated intensely. He said, "I don't need to know the enemy's name, because no matter what, I'll kill everything." And so Suji left. To pay for the spear the blacksmith was about to make for him, Suji was determined. To take the lives of those who harmed the blacksmith's poor daughter. Just as he stepped out the door, Suji suddenly remembered something and turned his head to ask, "Oh, right. Do you have any work clothes and poison?" The man fumbled around to one side. He asked loudly back, "Huh, you think a blacksmith sells that kind of stuff?" With that, his sturdy hand reached into a vat and threw something out. He also pulled out a tattered animal hide. He threw both items and they rolled to a stop right in front of Suji. The old man said, "Here, this bearskin is from a bear that killed 74 people, and that jar contains a deadly poison from the Meow tribe. Haven't tested it myself." Suji casually inspected the slightly unhygienic bearskin. He also picked up the clay pot and opened it to check. A strong foul odor wafted out. Suji vigorously fanned away the smoke from the clay pot. He said, "You got ripped off, shop owner." The old man ground his teeth in frustration. "I figured as much." Then Suji looked at both items and said, "I'll take them anyway. It's not as poisonous as the Meow tribe stuff, but it should be usable." Now deciding to leave for good, he poked his head back in and said, "I'll be back tomorrow to pick up my order." Then by the door Suji happened to see a skeleton. He asked, "What's this?" The old man looked up blankly and replied, "I used to use that to process livestock." "Why is there a problem?" Suji touched the long bone and said, "It's a horse leg." The blacksmith was impressed. "Is that so?" he casually said. "Let me borrow this until my order is ready." The old man said nothing, so Suji strode away. After he left, the man muttered, "What a damn weirdo." Could he really be a demon? No, it doesn't matter if he's a demon or not. As long as he helps me get revenge for my daughter, my own life is worthless. At that moment, the man coughed up a large amount of blood. There wasn't a spot on his body that wasn't bleeding red. He coughed for a long time. Scene changed to the main gate of the Black Blade sect. 3 guards were standing watch here. Looking ahead, there was a strange dark figure approaching them. A blurry shape in the mist. It looked like the silhouette of a man, gradually getting closer. "Who the hell is that?" The guard in front stepped out to block the way. Suji cursed, "Hey kid, we're in an important meeting. You can't pass." "What are you holding?" "It stinks, get lost." Without a word, Suji raised the bone and smashed it hard against the man, this talkative guard. He fell backward, his head busted open. "Didn't you hear what I said?" He didn't even get to finish his sentence before this guy was hit again hard enough to twist his neck. He spat out a mouthful of blood that sprayed everywhere. Very quickly, these 2 had joined the ghost society behind Suji. The guys behind them screamed, "Who is he in his hand? Is that a horse bone?" Before they could even figure out what it was, the guards were repeatedly beaten on the head. They couldn't fight back at all. A moment later, right in front of the gate, with the only weapon in his hand, being a horse's leg bone, Suji had taken them all down. He looked at it and clicked his tongue. "Looks like this is pretty useful, huh?" Suji looked up at the sign and whispered to himself, "Back then I let more than half of them escape during the battle, before I turned back time. And then I suffered considerable losses from their counterattack. But thanks to that, I know exactly how he escapes. This time I'll kill every single one of them." And so Suji opened the gate and strode in imposingly. He just walked in bold as brass, killing them one by one with every step. Screams and cries lined the path. He walked. Inside, Suji stepped up to a supervisor. The man came out to block his way. As soon as he saw Suji, he backed away in fear, but with just a light flick of his hand, without even looking at his opponent, he took him down in an instant. Suji was focused on what was ahead. so he just kept walking inside, ignoring the countless bodies lying around. He was planning to paint the entire Black Blade sect red. Just then, smelling the thick scent of blood in the mansion, a man's voice yelled, "What's all that noise?" His eyes narrowed in annoyance. It was a martial artist from within the sect. He seemed to have just woken up. He came out, looked around, and judged contemptuously, "Ugh, just a kid. Who the hell are you to come in here and cause a ruckus?" Behind him, there was a bald guy and another person. As soon as this guy saw Suji, he became arrogant. "I was having a nice sleep and you had to ruin it." The one-eyed man behind also stepped forward and spoke. "The sect leader is a meeting with a guest. I'll deal with you quickly," Suji thought. All of these guys are third-rate or second-rate at best. So they must be... He glanced over, his voice low. "The four pillars of the Black Blade, aren't you?" This tone made the first guy feel annoyed. He immediately rushed forward. "You little punk, you dare talk smack to me!" Suji kicked him straight in the junk. His two balls shot up to his neck. In agony, he looked at the dark figure and wondered, what the hell is this? And so, he immediately lunged and attacked the guys behind. The guy who was just hit was clutching his privates in misery. A man with a sword behind him immediately backed up and became more cautious. This bastard. He didn't expect Suji to use a surprise attack on his two eyes. Before he could even draw his sword, Suji's two fingers plunged straight into his eyes. He screamed in horror. Two long streaks of blood shot out. This guy's screams could be heard 7 villages away. "Ah, my eyes!" Suji just leaped up and continued his attack. The one-eyed man and the bald guy. The bald guy and the one-eyed man teamed up, swords drawn, and attacked Suji. "This damn brat!" He raised the horsebone high and charged. He dragged his feet on the floor to brace himself. Using that momentum, he threw the horsebone with terrifying force. The horsebone aimed right for the face of the guy with one bad eye. As he charged forward, he lost his balance. The horsebone seriously injured his face. It flew down, tumbling over and over, and landed right back in Suji's hand. He skillfully caught it. He immediately jumped high into the air at breakneck speed. Suji leaned forward and returned to the one-eyed man. He was about to give him another blow from behind. While the man was screaming, "Oh God, my eye!" Suji delivered another earth-shattering blow. The man's back was slammed, his spine driven down. Close to the floor, the man wailed miserably. Over here, the one who got kicked in the balls was crying out in pain. He bent over, glaring at Suji with rage, but could do nothing. The third guy then mustered all his courage and charged forward to fight him one-on-one. "I'll make you taste the same pain as me." He intended to grab Suji's privates with both hands, but he wasn't fast enough. Suji jumped up quickly. Suji nimbly kept his distance from the big guy, while the man continued to charge wildly. He said, "How funny. All this time you've only known how to take from others. Now that the tables are turned, it hurts, doesn't it?" Suji swung his hand and smashed a nearby precious vase. It shattered in front of the big guy. He quickly used his hands to shield himself. As shards from the vase flew into his face, it injured him. Suji walked slowly closer with an extremely dangerous tone. "Really, you're going crazy over just that? I'm here to take your souls, not just for some petty little things." Suji lunged forward and swung his arm high. Bam! He smashed the head of the previous guy. Red blood splattered out, horrifying even him. His face was now pale and green. He muttered to himself, "What the hell is this madman? Even in the sect, no one fights this brutally." And he charged straight in with a horsebone. As a weapon, this guy is a real monster. The monster in this man's thoughts was right behind him. Suji and the souls of his comrades that he had collected walked closer, the horsebone slung over his shoulder. Wherever he walked, the strawberry syrup of those he had killed stained the ground. The man could no longer hold the sword in his hand. He was trembling uncontrollably, but tried to resist. As soon as he saw Suji's eyes, they were ice cold and stared straight into the man's face. He was completely terrified and lost all will to fight. He just screamed. At this point, he had to fight back. Suji leaned back, gripping the horsebone tightly. The old man continuously made it hard to get close. The more he looked, the funnier it got. Suji opened his mouth slightly and breathed out a foul, evil aura. Ha ha ha! He just stood there and delivered a light blow, and the bald guy went tumbling in front of him. Just a light hit from him. It sent the man slamming his back into the wall behind him, leaving a large dent. The man kept dragging himself backward. Suji advanced slowly, terrifyingly. The bald guy bit his lip in frustration. Where the hell did this guy strong as an ox come from? Brought a horsebone in and beat the crap out of everyone. He asked, "You? Who are you? Who are you? Why are you here?" Suji, in a bloodthirsty rage, with an evil aura radiating a foul, bloody stench, said the blacksmith. Hearing this, the man understood. The bald man's face turned pale. "What, the blacksmith?" A swing of the horsebone went past the man's face. A spray of red blood shot out. Suji ended the lives of the 4 scoundrels concisely. At this point, he had neatly eliminated the 4 masters of the black sect. Suji stood there surrounded by their ghosts. Then he coolly turned to leave. He muttered to himself, "That should be enough for Revenge Right shop owner." These ghosts followed him one by one. Now as dusk fell at an ancient citadel, inside, 2 influential people were discussing matters. So the mission was a failure? The sect leader was at his wit's end, his voice filled with helplessness. The master is furious. And of course, so is the young master. If you had properly disguised the Black Blade sect members as bandits and successfully ambushed the Hue Administrative Bureau, suddenly the man ground his teeth in anger. "We would have both stolen the goods and received a reward from the Zhao family. But you idiots messed everything up." Zhu Hao, who was being berated, trembled with anger, but he couldn't do anything. But the sect leader wasn't done yet. His tone continued to be scolding. "The ambush failed, people died like flies. Now we don't even have the money to pay tribute to the Dark Alliance. What if the tax collector demon shows up, huh? What then?" Hearing this, he broke out in a nervous sweat. His hands and feet fumbled, losing control. Zhu Hao couldn't argue back and just slammed his hand on the table. His forehead at that time was drenched in sweat. He tried to calm down. "Things have gotten out of control. I sent enough troops to take down the Hue Administrative Bureau. I never expected to be completely wiped out instead." Even he himself couldn't believe it as he recalled. Confused, he thought. Not a single person returned alive. No one knows what happened. Just then the sect leader suddenly stood up, his face showing extreme disappointment. "We should have sent one of the 4 great Dharma protectors of the Black Blade from the start." Zhu Hao was upset about the past, but there was no way to change it. "I didn't think things would turn out like this." Then the more Zhu Hao spoke, the angrier he got. He said something that made the other man freeze. "If you had told us from the beginning that the Hue sect's guards were that strong, we wouldn't be in this situation." Hearing himself being blamed, the sect leader became increasingly irritated. "Huh, are you saying it's our fault?" He couldn't accept it and slammed the table with a bang, reminding him, "Let me make it clear." Then he used harsh words to reprimand him. "If you fail again next time, you're all dead, got it?" Although Zhu Hao was in the weaker position, he had to accept it. "Yes, I understand." The sect leader continued to speak arrogantly. "Unless the Administrative Bureau fails in its transport, the Hue sect won't be cornered. And the young master's marriage plan won't move forward. As long as that kid doesn't have that girl, he'll never be satisfied." Speaking continuously like that made the man lose control and scream. "I said I understand." "That's enough." But as the two were about to clash suddenly, there was a loud noise from outside, startling them. Zhu Hao was worried, not knowing why there was such a noise. "What's that sound? It's coming from the gate. The 4 great Dharma protectors should be on guard there." After that, neither of them dared to make a sound. They just stared anxiously at the door. Right after, a figure appeared at the door, making them jump in fright. They didn't even dare to breathe. After reaching their door, the person stopped. As soon as the person opened the door and stepped in, he threw many severed heads that he had just collected inside. The two looked at the severed heads on the floor and were utterly astonished. Their faces turned pale. The sect leader was already in a fighting stance, ready for anything. The heads of the 4 great Dharma protectors. Don't tell me the righteous faction sent a master. Looking at Suji's entire body radiating a murderous aura, and his sharp, cold eyes looking at them, the sect leader cowered and stammered an explanation. "Wait, I'm with the Zhao family. I have nothing to do with the Black Blade. I'm just here to negotiate. That's all." But Suji just remained silent. Then he spat a sticky substance from his mouth and began to attack the man. The sect leader still didn't know what was happening. Seeing the scene, "You must be here to wipe them out. Then let me lend a hand." After feeling a rising heat, the man screamed, "What the hell?" Then he clutched his eyes and backed away in horror. "What the hell are you doing?" "I told you I'm with the Zhao family. I'm not part of the Black Blade." But Suji didn't care at all. He just remembered the words his clan leader once told him. "One who has mastered superior demonic arts is called a demon breaker. The blood of a demon breaker is a potent poison to martial artists." Suji smirked and wiped the syrup still on his mouth. Though not as lethal as the poison of a true demon breaker, it's still painful enough, like rubbing chili powder into a wound. The sect leader couldn't take it anymore. He grabbed his saber and attacked. He couldn't stop yelling, "Damn it! What the hell is wrong with you?" However, Suji easily dodged to the side from this sudden slash. He looked back at the sect leader with some assessment. His martial arts are top-notch, but still no match for the 4 great Dharma protectors. Even so, a second later, Suji immediately stopped holding back and activated his power. The two of them saw that scene and were deeply shocked. No way. Is that magic? Neither of them expected a punk kid to possess such overwhelming power. Knowing he had no way out, the sect leader went for broke. leaping up and slashing wildly at him. "You're not a righteous person. You're a crazy demon." But Suji wasn't one to be easily bullied. He quickly ducked down. Then he used the bone in his hand to smash the sect leader's ankle. After knocking him down, he prepared to strike again, terrifying the man by slashing hard at his chest without a second's hesitation. But that wasn't enough to satisfy Suji. So he swung his hand hard again at the sect leader's body to make sure the man couldn't fight back. After the blow, a heaven-sent blow, no more screams could be heard. Only a stream of blood was seen flowing across the floor. After witnessing that heartless move, Juhao could only stand still and wipe his face. Transcending the boundaries of ideals and morality between good and evil, they are the embodiment of evil, the common enemy that the entire martial world must destroy. And yet a monster like that, it appeared in the Black Blade sect. Thinking this, he began to turn pale with fear. He leaned against the wall, silently trying to escape. Users of demonic arts are just beasts until they reach a certain level. They only know how to kill. While he was distracted by the man named Zhao, Juhao quickly flipped a switch, opening a secret passage. "I can sneak out and contact the Dark Alliance. If not, the Martial Alliance will do. But life isn't always a dream." Suji was right behind him. He called out in a cold voice, Gu Juhao, causing him to startle and stop. He walked over, radiating a murderous aura, and asked, "Is it really you?" Juhao was too scared to turn around and thought, "Wait, this guy still has his sanity. To be sane even after mastering demonic arts? Doesn't that make him a master at the peak level?" Seeing the ferocious aura pouring out of Suji's body. Not only that, it was also becoming more bloodthirsty than ever before. And what's more, at this thought, sweat broke out on his face. He's still controlling the demonic energy in his body. After this stunt, Juhao had no choice but to turn back and kowtow repeatedly. "Mercy, please spare me. If you spare my life, I'll do anything." He desperately spilled everything to save his own skin. "Today is the deadline to deliver the tribute to the Taming. If anything goes wrong, I'll be dead on the spot." Juhao also emphasized something that caught his attention. "And you'll be in trouble too." Seeing Juhao so desperate, he felt a bit of admiration. This guy's sharper than I thought." Then he made a demand. "Then give up your martial arts." This made the man freeze and ask back, "What? Give up your martial arts?" Suji snapped, making the man even more afraid. "If you refuse, I'll kill you right now." Hearing these words, Juhao was extremely conflicted. Giving up his martial arts was like being dead already. "In that case, Unexpectedly, he risked it all, drew his sword, and charged. "At least I have to fight back with one blow." But Suji, anticipating this, drew his weapon and sneered. "I knew it, just a coward. I'll talk." Without hesitation, Suji swung his staff straight down at the man. But unfortunately, it only grazed his scalp. Just then, Juhao jumped to the side, clutching his head and coughing dryly. After witnessing his martial arts, the man slowly realized, "This aura? Turns out you're not a peak-level master. Just a second-rate warrior, and you had the nerve to trick me. What a joke." Hearing himself being mocked like this, but he remained calm, unbothered. What a farce." Then Suji immediately activated his inner power and said, "But this will make cleaning up the Black Blade sect easier. Time to get serious." A wound on his head started to split open. The man was feeling cocky when suddenly his whole body became unsteady, staggering. "This energy flow. Turns out, you're no master at all. Just a second-rate swordsman, and you dared to trick me." The more he spoke, the dizzier his head became. Only then did Juhao realize, filled with disbelief. No way, he must have pulled some trick in that last blow. At this moment, Suji, carrying the bone weapon on his back, calmly walked over and stared at the man. "I should be the one thanking you. Normally, you'd be a troublesome opponent, but because you misunderstood on your own, things became much easier." After speaking, he released demonic energy towards the man, leaving him unable to resist. Red demons relentlessly taunted him with their words. "Die you too. Let's die together, Captain." Unable to stay sane, Juhao began swinging his sword wildly, regardless of whether his slashes hit or not. However, Suji was prepared, and easily parried the man's slashes. After parrying, Suji didn't forget to return the favor with a powerful blow to Juhao. He was hit by the blow, but still stubbornly charged forward, seeking revenge. "Damn it, I thought I had him." But Suji, with just a slight movement, was still able to dodge. Seeing this, the man was so furious he gritted his teeth. "What the hell?" Watching his every fluid movement, Juhao couldn't help but be astonished. Wild yet disciplined movements like an assassin, but still carrying the presence of a true warrior. Unpredictable movements, designed to kill the enemy in any situation. The more Juhao watched, the more he analyzed. Like a demon on the battlefield, but while he was lost in thought, the blow was already right in his face. And so he took the full force of the hit from Suji and was sent tumbling backward. Just finishing the job, Suji decided to let him rest for a moment, saving his energy to mess him up some more later. However, as the items in the room were sent flying, a piece of paper flew in front of him. Suji instinctively caught it. After reading it, he read it aloud, startling the man. You kidnapped civilian women and sold them into brothels. Then you extorted them to build the Black Blade sect to its current strength. You also borrowed a mountain of debt from the Tihu Jiangji. At this point, Zhu Hao, with no other options, knelt and begged tearfully. Great warrior. I was wrong. Just spare me, and I swear I'll never... But Suji didn't care and just asked coldly, how many people, making the man look confused? What? He immediately repeated his words with emphasis. How many people have begged you to spare their lives like this? That's what I'm asking. But Zhu Hao, seeing the flames, was too terrified to answer. Please spare me. I'm begging you. I'll do anything. However, Suji mercilessly threw fire, burning him, mumbling to himself. This way. It helps alleviate some of the regret of the Tihu. Zhangjie? Hearing Suji mumble, Zhu Hao had a thought, and it dawned on him. Tihu Jiangji Company? Wait a minute. Could he be? Along with seeing his ice-cold expression in battle, he immediately realized he's the one who's been causing all the recent trouble. As his entire body was fiercely burning, Zhu Hao's body was in too much pain to think any further. He just stood there calmly watching the scene. Then he turned away and sighed. Looking at the crispy, burnt piece of flesh, Suji couldn't help but feel contempt. So this is the leader of the Black Blade sect, Zhu Hao. Perhaps he has some value after all. Just as Suji was about to leave, the voice from outside suddenly echoed in. This way, master, hurry! But he wasn't afraid at all. On the contrary, he walked out proudly through the main gate. Someone's coming out. The subordinates who had just arrived saw Suji and immediately became wary. Who is this punk? Who cares? Kill him! Making Suji let out a frustrated sigh. Looks like it's going to be a long night. The next morning, at a crowded market, people were whispering amongst themselves. Hey, have you heard the news? I heard it from a guy who used to work for the Black Blade sect. Suddenly, a fat guy jumped in and said, last night the entire sect was wiped out. Even their headquarters was burned to the ground. Hearing this, the other two couldn't hide their surprise. Whoa, for real, they totally deserved it. The fat guy continued the story with a tone full of pride. Totally. We at the Tiger Severing sect also suffered because of them. The other two were shocked. You're from the Tiger Severing sect. Then the fat guy started telling another story. I heard the Black Blade sect bought up the debt of the Tiger's lair. A sect from the moneylender. Not to mention they'd sometimes come here and cause trouble. But thanks to that incident, those debts are now worthless, and the Tiger's lair sect came out on top. The two others grinned. That's awesome. So who was the master who wiped them out? He's truly the hero of the province. But the fat guy noticed something. He angrily walked over and yelled at Suji, who was sleeping over there. Hey, rookie, are you done cleaning the horse manure yet? The loud shouting woke him up. He shot a cold glance over. The fat guy saw that punchable face and walked over to confront him. What's with that face? You got a problem? But Suji just felt annoyed and thought, what a pain. So annoying. Should I pull out the golden token? As he was about to act, Suji had another thought. No, it's better to keep quiet until I've dealt with them. Being ignored, the fat guy got angry and wanted to fight. That's enough. Listen when I'm talking to you. But just as he was about to start a fight, a voice cut in. You two. The fat guy immediately turned around in fear. Oh, that voice! This person slowly walked over and admonished him. Hey, stop bullying the new guy, will you? It made Suji freeze, stunned. A hazy, indistinct figure. I'm not too familiar with your customs, but new recruits should be treated with some kindness. Right. The image of this girl reminded him of an old friend. From the battlefield. The fat guy being called out stammered in fear. Yes, young miss. It's not what you think. This kid, he wouldn't listen to a word I said. She came to his defense saying, he's still young. This might be his first time doing this kind of work. So please be patient and teach him. But he still wanted to argue back. But he's just a vagrant. He'll probably leave soon anyway. QE, seeing the fat guy, still didn't get it, turned back with a stern expression. They say even brushing sleeves with someone is fate. Right. Therefore, we must cherish every encounter. Life is unpredictable. We might meet again in some distant place. Who knows, we might even become family one day. After hearing that, no one dared to say anything more. As if I'd ever see this guy again. A distant place? This is Anhui province. Who would ever leave here? Just then, Akui turned back and asked cheerfully, Hey, are you new here? That snapped Suji out of his stupor. He saw her body as if it was radiating a halo, and she was even asking about him with such warmth. If anyone bullies you, just come and tell me, okay? It made Suji feel as if he'd been struck by lightning, a bolt of love. He was a little skeptical about the connection between her and his old friend. Her face and voice are different from before. However, Suji slowly began to recognize a shared trait between them. Those clear eyes haven't changed a bit. Then he smiled involuntarily. You're still the same as always. Then he called out to Akui with a few cryptic words. And you too, he said seriously, looking straight into Akui's eyes. If anyone ever bullies you again, tell me. This left Akui, confused, not understanding what he had just said to her. Huh. It also shocked the fat guy so much his jaw dropped. That idiot. How dare he talk to the young miss like that? But unexpectedly she smiled and replied, Okay, I will, which made his heart feel a little lighter. Now as night had fallen, a figure silently approached and opened the warehouse door. Searching through the supplies, the necessary items for a long journey, Suji put on a pouch at his hip, along with his essential set of tools. Then he quickly grabbed an old blade and said to himself, I have avenged the escort team and the shop owner. Suji walked away decisively, not looking back, as if ready to fight with all his might. Now was the time for him to leave with an expression completely different from the morning, carrying a determination that said, I will hunt down the one who killed my sworn brother. Manhwa province. A dark aura was creeping through this place. Suddenly, someone was rushing towards the Zhao family residence. The assassin dashed past the heads of the guards, then charged straight inside. The guard's face darkened as he realized, I just heard something. What? Before he could see who it was, swish, a slash of a sword. In an instant, he was sent to the afterlife. The assassin quickly dragged him inside, leaving a long trail of blood on the ground. And that assassin was Suji. Outside, two young women were gossiping. Security is really tight today. After the Black Blade sect was wiped out in a single night. It's understandable, but it has nothing to do with us, right? I hope so. Hearing this, he frowned in surprise. Looking ahead, there were many more guards stationed everywhere. Without hesitation, Suji used a small stone to distract them. Hearing the sound, they reflexively turned their heads. One of them had only taken a few steps when he stepped on one of Suji's darts. He cried out in pain, This is Caltrops! Suddenly, Suji rushed out from the shadows and struck him with a surprise attack. A trident. He had no time to react and fell backward. Seeing his comrade suddenly fall, the man next to him grew suspicious. He turned and yelled, Hey, what are you doing just sitting there? Haven't even had a decent meal, damn it. But he didn't know that poison was dripping from above onto his steamed bun. Seeing the other guy was still motionless and not responding, he started walking closer, cursing the bastard while eating his bun. Hey, are you listening? I'm talking to... But after a few steps, blood started to flow. His whole body was poisoned. Blood poured ceaselessly from his eyes, nose, and mouth. What the hell is this? Then he slowly collapsed. The other men saw this and screamed, What the hell is it, poison? Don't joke like that. Gather everyone from the kitchen right now. Lock the main gate, make sure no one leaves. But during this time, Suji was silently preparing his weapons and gear to fight them. Still as badass as ever, master, I like it. He observed silently, then thought, Gear check is done. Guess it's time to pay a little visit. The Zhao family, that name ends tonight. The guards outside looked in. Just because of that Black Blade incident, we have to post guards on every floor. What, not enough men? Suddenly a strange noise came from the door, making them focus their attention on it. Then unexpectedly Suji burst out from inside, sword in hand, before their astonished eyes. The whole group gritted their teeth. What was that just now? An intruder? No, an assassin. As they realized who he was, it was already too late. One by one, Suji gifted them with a few sword slashes, sending them to meet their ancestors. After finishing off the group here, Suji turned and continued upwards. Just then a voice came from outside. Did you hear that just now? It sounded like it came from the floor below. As soon as he stepped onto the upper floor, Suji came face to face with another man. You're the one assigned to the 4th floor. Right. What was that noise just now? The man looked at Suji with contempt and said, The master has already gone to rest. Keep it down. Go back and tell the others to be quiet. Wait, what? The man looked at Suji's ready stance and asked quizzically, Why are you holding a spear instead of a sword? But he had no intention of wasting words on the man. Suji stomped his foot hard, then charged forward. He pierced through the man's body while he was still talking. At that moment, everyone around them realized, What? An attacker. It's an assassin. Don't let a single one escape. Suji gripped the spear tightly in his hand. He executed a technique weaving through them one by one. Everywhere he passed, he left them with a fatal blow. Seeing the bloody scene, a shout came from outside. Intruder, get him! They all charged forward with swords trying to grab Suji. Damn it, where did that guy come from? What are the rest of them doing? No reinforcements. Every single one of them had a fierce, menacing look. But none could escape the tip of his spear. My leg. When did he set a trap, you coward? Suji gripped the spear tightly and thrust it straight into the throat of the one who was speaking, then turned to finish off the last one. Bodies lay scattered everywhere. Just then a sliver of light shone through a door. A harsh voice snapped, It's too noisy. As soon as Suji heard it, he recognized that voice. His internal energy is terrifying. He's far beyond Guju Hao. Just as expected, it's him. The old man quickly strode closer to Suji. His deep, hoarse voice spoke out. Even if you are uninvited, you should still observe some basic etiquette, shouldn't you? Suji now looked at the old man with eyes full of hatred. We finally meet. The one who slaughtered countless lives for personal gain and pushed a Kui into hell. The old man spoke up. Coming to find me at this hour. What is your purpose, the head of the Zhao family Zhao Shi? Suji growled, looking at the old man. Zhao Shi. You're the leader of the Zhao clan, aren't you? The old man smirked in response. Insolent brat, watch your mouth. Who are you? You don't seem to belong to the righteous sects, the Valley of Annihilation, or the Supreme Society, or the Black Sand region. Hearing the old man speak, he suddenly thought, his aura is strange, chaotic yet focused. This fight won't be easy. Then he spoke, the Tiger's Lair sect. Zhao Shi stroked his beard and replied, raised by a master of the Tiger's Lair sect, eh? Hard to believe, I can't imagine that person raising a tiger like you. The old man asked sternly, what is your relationship with the Tiger's Lair sect? In response to the question, was Suji's firm reply. I'm just a guest. Then the old man gritted his teeth and replied, a servant warrior. No more like a stable boy. So you're not revealing anything for free. But where you come from doesn't matter. You've thrown yourself into the lion's den. The most appropriate way to handle this is to kill you. And without another word. As he spoke, Zhao Shi drew his sword and began to attack Suji. Wouldn't you agree? But Suji had closed his eyes thinking. To meet Zhao Shi in the flesh feels unreal. He recalled old memories from his past life. In my past life, this old man lived peacefully until the end. A Kui had to swallow her tears, unable to get revenge herself. But now it's different. This life will be different. A Kui, I will avenge you right here. No more words. Suji took a stance and pointed his sword at the old man. Right now, the sound of two swords clashing. Zhao Shi gritted his teeth. Suddenly, both he and Suji were thrown back. Old man Zhao Shi was pushed back and struggled to regain his footing. But Suji's face hardened as he asked, are you using demonic arts? Why can I feel my clan's internal energy? From you. But Suji just smiled smugly in silence. He was completely different now with a triumphant smile. So why do you think that is? After saying that, he marveled at himself. My soul title has reached level 9, the compression stage. I'm on par with Zhao Shi, a top-tier master, facing an old man with such profound martial arts. But Suji didn't waver. So the deciding factor between someone living a second time and you is the gap in experience. Not letting himself be overwhelmed, Zhao Shi quickly attacked. But all of his techniques were surpassed. He mercilessly brought down a fatal blow. The old man blocked with his sword and exclaimed, this technique! I know it. Then the two continued to clash in a chaotic battle. After knocking Suji back, the old man said smugly, but that alone isn't enough to take me down. Zhao Shi smiled arrogantly, thinking, now what are you going to do? Brat, no matter who you are, if that blow hits you in the eye, you're done for. But Suji's eyes hardened. In an instant, a flash of fire sparked. Zhao Shi looked at him horrified. What? Suji charged, thrusting a spear straight into his chest. The impact made Zhao Shi cough painfully. Blood slowly trickled down. The old man struggled to say, more dangerous than I thought, damn it. My head was almost chopped off. But you're the same. Your guts are practically spilling out. Looking at the old man's condition, he calculated internally. His attacks are broad and seasoned with experience. Finding an opening to win won't be easy. But he still attacked decisively. Zhao Shi grabbed the spear and said, you know how to use long-range weapons too. And that tenacity? Now I'm really curious. Who raised an oddball like you? If you surrender now, I will take you in as my subordinate. As he spoke, Zhao Shi leaned in and slashed downwards. But it wasn't so easy to take Suji down. He was incredibly agile. Cunning old fox. He's preparing to attack again after those words. Suji stomped his foot and ran forward. Suddenly, Suji's eyes widened in astonishment. Old man Zhao Shi had suddenly become stronger. He rushed forward like a lightning bolt to attack him. Suji gradually retreated, but he stepped on these bodies lying scattered around. He hissed, damn it, while Zhao Shi said smugly, it's over. After those words, came a strike straight into Suji's chest. Although severely injured, he didn't cry out, which made the old man surprised. Not even a single scream. You've got guts. You're really different from my foolish son. Just a minor injury. And that kid has everyone worrying sick about him, Suji said with a sarcastic tone. That's why I realized he needs a strong wife. I don't know how much longer I have to live. I just hope to see my grandchild's face once. But suddenly, Suji grabbed his sword, which made the old man's eyes go wide with shock. He growled. You don't know how long you have left to live. Zhao Shi looked at him with a frightened expression, thinking my sword, it won't move. No matter how hard I grip it. If his hand is holding the sword in that position, This kid no way. He's blocking the sword with his ribs. Truly insane and reckless. Could it be that he intentionally left an opening earlier? To lure me into attacking his side? The more the old man thought, the more terrified he became. Suji spoke. I'll tell you how long you have to live. Then he took a sinister breath and growled the old man's name syllable by syllable, Jiao Shi. In that very moment, Jiao Shi suddenly felt extreme fear. He trembled and uttered, "What is this pressure? No, I have to retreat, run away." This feeling, it's fear. Am I afraid? Suji seemed to gain more strength. An abundant source of demonic energy enveloped him. Jiao Shi. Damn it. I have to pull my sword out and create distance. Jiao Shi. Suji's eyes became like a demon's, staring fiercely at Jiao Shi. Jiao Sai was so scared he started to cry. He felt as if he was being swallowed by some mysterious magic, slowly being sucked in. Seizing the opportunity, Suji thrust his spear through the man's chest. Jiao Shi immediately coughed up blood. What just happened? Was it an illusion or killing intent? How can a kid like you possess that kind of killing intent? Suji laughed triumphantly and said, You may have experienced many battles in your life, but they were just matches with rules, or sparring. The more he spoke, the harder he thrust the spear. Then he said coldly, The life and death battles between infantrymen. In the war I was dragged into, and compared to the slaughter I was forced to commit to survive, this stuff is just child's play. After finishing off Jiao Shi, he let go of the spear in his hand and went to pick up a nearby axe. The man wasn't dead yet and managed to utter a few words. My son, just my son. Don't kill him, please. Suji didn't like the sound of that. He raised the axe in his hand, preparing to execute him. That request is impossible. After those words, blood splattered everywhere. Jiao Shi took an axe to the face, his features deforming as he died instantly. Finally, Suji laughed triumphantly and said, You will never see your grandchild's face. Suddenly a thought flashed through his mind. First I need to recover. He suddenly sensed it. This way, this smell. I can smell it. Without hesitation, Suji quickly moved towards the source of the smell. He saw a tea table ahead, the tea still hot. The skull guided him to a spot. It's here, this bell. Inside this large bell was where Jiao Shi's son was hiding. There you are, young master. I found you. As soon as he saw Suji, he backed away in fear. Don't come any closer. Help me, please. Suji looked at him with eyes full of disgust. Because of the desires of trash like him, so many people had to live in hell? No more words. Suji grabbed him by the hair, making him scream. Suji's eyes widened once more as he said, Looks like you still have enough energy to scream so loudly. Born into a rich family, with both money and power. You think you're the hero of this world? The man, terrified, broke down in tears, but Suji just said calmly, All right then. In that case, I'll make you the star of the show. Sounds fun, doesn't it? Tonight, you're the main character. When the long night ended, posters were put up all over Anhui province stating that, because the righteous faction had colluded with the dark faction for profit, someone had taken it upon themselves to punish them on behalf of the victims. Everyone outside was talking about it nonstop. What in the world is going on? They looked towards the location of Gyo Uk's dark faction and exclaimed that both the dark faction and the Gyo family estate had been wiped out in succession. It's said that a mysterious punisher of evil appeared and killed everyone, except the servants, which is a good thing. The monsters who dared to mess with the Hyelma sect have been dealt with. All the people in the dark faction were dealt with. They were pinned to the wall with swords as a punishment. But I still wonder who did this. Both the Hukdo house and Gyo Uk were not easy to deal with. Suddenly a fat guy appeared out of nowhere and cut in. I heard from a woman who used to be a servant in the Gyo family estate. The other two saw him and immediately yelled, Huh, again with a face like that? He must have a lot of girlfriends. But the fat guy said with a certain tone, Shut up and listen. Apparently that punisher of evil called Gyo Uk's name 3 times before killing him, and so the 3 of them started gossiping. He's not the Grim Reaper, so why would he call their name? She said that when his name was called, Gyo Uk was so scared he started crying. What, that's really scary. He called his name 3 times and then dragged him to the underworld. He's not planning on coming to the Hyelma sect, is he? He's already here. As soon as they heard that, all 3 of them froze. The scene changes to Aiku. As she walked, she thought, 3 calls to the underworld. The mysterious punisher of evil that the people are gossiping about has wiped out both the Hukdo and the Gyo family estate. Her brow furrowed. Even if they were bad people, rejoicing in someone else's death feels wrong. Wrong. But I'm still curious who that punisher of evil is. Could it be a ghost or a demon? It's scary, but I'm also curious. Why did he only step in to help our Hyelma sect? Just then Aiku suddenly remembered. Could it be the person Aika mentioned in her letter? Thanks to some punisher of evil, we were able to protect the escort, and the goods from the forest bandits. I gave my golden badge to that person and asked him to come to the Tiger Cave sect. If he does, please welcome him warmly. Thinking about it, Aiku calculated. But, Aika, so far no one has come with the golden badge. As she was walking, she suddenly stopped. Aiku turned her head and said, it seems I was lost in thought again. Where am I? The surrounding scenery was incredibly picturesque. She cheerfully said to Suji, Have I told you before? How did you know I like lakes? Yes, but Suji indifferently asked back, You've told me before. Really, did I say that? Just then Aiku suddenly remembered. Did I ever tell you? In our past life. Hearing that, Suji closed his eyes and thought, Whenever you're upset or confused, you always sit by the lake. Then he reached into his shirt. Aiku asked in surprise, What is that? Without answering, Suji immediately threw the handful of incense down below. Only then did Aiku realize it was insect-repellent incense. I love the lake, but the insects are so annoying. You're so thoughtful. You're already like this after just arriving. She turned to him and asked, Were you like this at your previous job too? Suji replied coldly, A warrior will give their all for someone who values them. Whoever treats me like family, I will treat them the same. Hearing Suji's words, Aiku was a little confused. But she still replied cheerfully, It seems you have your reasons. I won't pry, but as long as you're at the Hyelma sect, we are your family. Seeing her so friendly, Suji's heart also felt a little flustered. He remembered the memory from that time. Suji, do you know why I saved you? A voice rang out. Because I am the heir of the Hyelma sect. You've told me before, haven't you? That the sect master and his wife are good people. It was from that moment that I began to see you as family. Just then there was a loud shout. Young lady, the fat man yelled frantically. The escort! The escort is back. As soon as she heard, Aiku was overjoyed. Really? Then she quickly galloped off on her horse, leaving Suji behind. Sorry, but I have to go first. There's a feast tonight, so make sure you eat your fill. The fat man, seeing her ride off so quickly, also hastily chased after her. Young lady, please wait. As for Suji, he just chuckled foolishly. Well, this is good too. You're too slow, young lady. A series of glasses of wine were raised along with a loud, enthusiastic cheer. Cheers to the commander of the escort, Suji, the hero of our journey. Cheers. The sect master, sitting high up in the center of the feast, stood up and cheerfully began. Tonight, let's drink to our heart's content. The guests, hearing the invitation, also joined in with great enthusiasm. Long live the Hyelma sect. At this moment, Suji was eating and drinking calmly amidst the drunken shouting crowd. Drunk and shouting, Long live the Hyelma sect. As he was sipping his wine, suddenly someone approached from behind him. He placed a hand on his shoulder. He called out, Hey! The fat man, drunk and jealous, said, Who do you think you are to be with the young lady? Who do you think you are to be with the young lady? Suddenly, two other drunk guys chimed in, agreeing. Only a long-serving guard can escort the young lady. Drunk, he swept the whole table of food away. Say something. The fat man from behind pointed a finger at Suji's head. He threatened, If you keep acting like this, don't even think about eating. His two cronies also stood before him, chiming in with threats. There's no food for you here, you arrogant brat. Aiku approached and asked, What do you think you're doing? Her appearance startled them. Their faces turned pale. Young lady, Aiku asked with suspicion. Don't tell me you're bullying Suji again. Before her sharp, murderous gaze, the fat man, terrified, quickly made an excuse to avoid it. We just brought some food for him to eat with us. His cronies, seeing this, also chimed in, agreeing. Yes, that's right. Aiku reached out and took a piece of cake from the bowl with a sigh, helplessly. She fed him the piece of cake with a hint of reproach. I told you, if you get bullied, you have to tell me. Aiku looked at Suji with concern. My goodness, you still haven't eaten properly. Didn't they give you enough to eat? If this happens again, you have to tell me. From the table at the center of the high hall, the sect master called down. Aiku, come here. Hearing him call, she turned in surprise and glanced at him. Aiku turned to leave, not forgetting to remind him. I have to go. Make sure you eat well. The fat man, seeing how she treated him, gritted his teeth. His face was green with envy. Why does the young lady favor you so much? You're just a kid compared to us. Without that pretty face, you'd be nothing. His eyes widened in anger. He repeated, Since the young lady ordered it, I have to feed you. So let me feed you. With that, the fat man scooped up a spoonful of food. He used great force, fueled by his anger and jealousy, and threw it straight at him. Suji, with a look of disdain, dodged to the side. The fat man, with a grimace, threatened, What the hell? Don't dodge, you bastard! He declared war with a continuous barrage of spoonfuls of food. We'll beat that rotten attitude out of you. He didn't say a word, just silently dodged the flying spoonfuls of food. There was a clear selection process, which made the fat man even angrier. What is that? He's dodging everything but the meat and eating it. That look on his face? He's mocking us, isn't he? Damn it, he's driving me crazy. The main hall was filled with tables and guests. It was very elegant and polite. The sect master with a dignified expression spoke socially. Thanks to Commander Su, this trip has ended safely. Now we can finally breathe a sigh of relief. The sect master's wife also chose her words carefully. Don't worry about the families of the fallen guards. I swear on my honor, I will take responsibility for them to the end. Aika replied politely. Please don't worry about the families of the fallen guards. I was just doing my duty. Aiku approached holding a teapot and said, You've worked hard. Please let me pour you a cup. She picked up the teacup and smiled. Thank you very much. As she poured the tea, she chatted. That's right. And about the guest with the golden token mentioned in the letter. Aika interrupted. I wanted to ask about that too. She wondered, I don't see them anywhere. Could it be that they didn't come to the Hyelma sect? Aiku shook her head and replied, That's right, if they had come, we would have prepared to welcome them as honored guests. Aika showed her utter disappointment covering her face. So, she chatted some more. He is a righteous man who wields a spear though he is young. He displayed overwhelming power to wipe out the Noxan bandits. No, actually they were members of the Hikdo sect. As Aika recounted, she also remembered Suji's appearance as he wielded the spear in punishment. I want to thank him personally again, but it's a shame I can't. She pursed her lips in regret, thinking to herself, if only I could recruit such a master as a subordinate. Not only would it make our sect stronger, but my subordinates would no longer have to die. She reached out and touched Aika's clenched fist. She called Lady Aika. Aiku, as if expressing her love, said, Lady Aika, you have done so much for the Hyelma sect. Please, wash away all your regrets and worries with this cup of wine. Looking around at the feast, everyone was extremely happy, raising their cups of wine to toast each other. She was very grateful. Thanks to your efforts, many people are smiling because of you. After hearing that, her eyes went wide and her mouth hung open, unable to hide her surprise. In the cup of wine, a delicate peach blossom petal fell into Aika's cup. Seeing the happy couple, the sect master and his wife, made her fall into deep thought. That's right. She turned to her subordinates who were happily celebrating and toasting each other. Me and my subordinates. She shifted her gaze to Suji, who was engrossed in the food fight. We fought to protect this everyday peace. Aika leisurely raised her cup of wine and drank. Suddenly her body froze, stiffening. She seemed to have realized something. Aika immediately turned to look at Suji below, whom she had just glanced at. Aika's eyes were as if in a trance, unable to believe what she was seeing. She thought to herself, what is this? Sitting from a distance, but he could also feel the eyes of someone staring intently at him. Her eyes were even more astonished, daring not to believe. That brat from earlier. Suji, realizing this, raised his hand to signal Aika to be quiet. She broke out in a cold sweat and put down her wine glass. Her movements were as fast as free fall, full of questions. What are you doing here? He communicated with his eyes. It's not time yet. It's still too early to use your golden card. Until then, keep quiet about me. The fat man, after a long battle, was starting to get tired. He was panting heavily, about to fall down like his two cronies. His cronies stood still. Stay still, you bastard! The fat man ordered everyone. Catch him, he said. He and his two cronies shouted and charged towards Suji. The fat man suddenly stopped, glancing to the side. Following his gaze, he also glanced over. Someone picked up a clean gnawed bone and tapped it on the wooden fish once. Goryu tossed the bone aside and sat imposingly, warning, be quiet while I'm eating. The fat man, with his arrogant demeanor, was not afraid to offend him. What's with this bastard? He cracked his knuckles in anger, showing off. You should thank our merciful sect master for letting a useless person like you enjoy this meal. You stink. Hurry up and finish eating, then get out. Not one to back down. Goryu, not at all weakened, held out his hand. Oh, looks like you've got some nerve. I guess I'll have to teach you a lesson. The fat man, with his slowness, didn't notice the arm blocking his path. He just stood there confused. What are you mumbling about? The guy was completely surprised. What is it, kid? He said, seeing Suji standing in front of the fat man. Goryu picked up the stick and praised, impressive. You figured out my intention so quickly. With moves like that, you'll have a bright future, kid? The guy slung the stick over his shoulder and turned to leave, but not without a reminder. Hey, fatso, you better be grateful to that kid for the rest of your life. You were saved thanks to him. You were saved thanks to him. He watched Goryu's retreating back and wondered, is this guy crazy? The guy walked to the center of the feast and shouted, everyone listen up. The sect master and his wife looked surprised when they heard Goryu speak loudly. Thank you for inviting me to such a wonderful feast. Aika showed a surprised expression, but Aiku remained calm and listened to him continue. However, it's a shame you only have cold sake, Goryu said loudly, so let me pour everyone a cup of hot sake. With that, he placed his hand holding a wooden fish down in front of her and her. Goryo's hand holding the wooden fish extended 2 fingers and pressed them onto the table. A purple flame erupted from his hand. Goryo's whole body also glowed with a purple light, and the cups of wine on the sect master's table heated up so much that they steamed. This made him and everyone at the table retreat in alarm, ready to attack. After the smoke dissipated, it was all gone, leaving behind a dry cup. Not a single drop of wine remained. The guy with the strange eyes smiled smugly at his accomplishment. He said, "Oops, looks like I made it a little too hot." All the good wine evaporated. Aika's face turned pale as she thought, just with his internal energy, he's already this strong. This man has at least reached the pinnacle of martial arts. He, with a face dripping with sweat, asked for the monk's identity. "Who are you really?" Garyu threw the wooden fish away. At the same time, he took off his hat and answered, "I'm not a monk. I just picked up this wooden fish on my way here." The guy lifted his foot and stepped forward. "It's late, but let me introduce myself." Goryo stomped his foot down and said, "I am a debt collector for the Demonic Cult Alliance." The guy stomped one foot on the table with an overwhelming presence and added, "Once known as the Demonic Staff, my name is Gugoryo, Demon Staff Gugoryo." He was once famous as one of the twin demons who rampaged throughout the martial arts world. After encountering the demonic cult, he fought their leader and was defeated. He was forced to work under them. His main job was to collect tribute from organizations that didn't pay on time, and if they dared to resist, he would annihilate their sect. The sect master gritted his teeth and said, "Could he be the one Suji gave the golden token to?" Aika next to him couldn't help but say in surprise, "No, it's not him. I've never seen this person before." Suddenly a strange voice rang out, interrupting the conversation. "It's been a while since I've returned to Anhui province, and I hear the Hokuto sect and the Zhou family estate have been wiped out." Goryo rolled his eyes and threatened in a low voice, "In a situation like this, you're still having the lavish feast. No wonder you're under suspicion, right?" As soon as he saw the guy's demonic face, Aika showed fear. But the sect master couldn't help but shout, trying to de-escalate. "It's just a coincidence. We have nothing to do with it." Hearing that, the guy repeated, "If it's just a coincidence, then let's continue the feast tonight." Then he reached up and stroked his chin, saying, "I heard the rumors. But..." Then the guy looked at Aiku and smiled slyly. "It seems you're even more formidable than they say." Seeing his gaze, Aiku immediately looked away, feigning ignorance. "What are you talking about?" Garyu looked at her and replied lustfully, "I heard Jia was mesmerized by your beauty, which led to his downfall. And I understand why. With a face like that, it's no wonder if 1 or 2 sects fall because of you. You're that beautiful." Suddenly the guy rushed in front of Aiku and said, "Do you know what happens when a weakling is born with such beauty?" He was halfway through his sentence when Aiku's eyes stared at the guy. "Huh." Goryo smiled smugly and said, "You will be forced to endure humiliation. Unjustly like this. Understand?" Then he laughed loudly. Hearing such indecent words, the sect master angrily drew his sword and pointed it at Goryo. "What do you mean? If you came here to cause trouble, don't expect us to stand by and watch." The guy had a smug look on his face. "Do you really think you can beat me? This isn't about winning or losing. My daughter was just insulted right in front of me." The sect master stepped past the man and ordered, "Come out so as not to involve innocent people." But Garyu didn't want to follow his orders. "That's not necessary. Let's settle this right here, shall we?" The guy's words had made him even angrier, and he swung his sword. Garyu also drew his sword to defend himself. Aiku, on the other hand, screamed in fear, "Father, please put away your sword!" She closed her eyes and gritted her teeth, speaking in a soft voice. "Thank you for teaching us an important lesson. This is your payment." Garyu gritted his teeth and said, "Even though I just spit in your face, you still pour me wine to drink. The daughter of a martial arts family is truly pathetic." Aiku clasped her hands and said with a determined look, "I am not humbling myself to beg. You have reached the highest realm, a true senior of the martial arts world. I am just expressing the respect of a junior for your achievements." Seeing her like this, the guy laughed heartily. "So even though you're a powerful warrior, I only spat on a girl. Is that what you find ironic?" Aiku continued. "Perhaps my words were not enough and you misunderstood, but I am only expressing my true feelings. And so please accept this additional cup." As soon as she finished speaking, she bowed her head, and Garyu was a little surprised. The guy laughed heartily, pleased that he had gotten his way. Then he drank the cup of tea in one gulp and clasped his hands together. He said, "I apologize for my rudeness earlier. So, Sectmaster, please put away your sword." A moment later, Goryo said in a mocking tone, "I did that to save you face Sectmaster. Let's end it here." Humiliated, Aiku still gritted her teeth and endured it. The Sectmaster did the same. He could only sigh in helplessness. Garyu continued, "What a sharp and wonderful girl. If I were 50 years younger, I would have married her." The guy stepped forward and said, "I almost forgot the most important thing. Since the Hokuto sect was wiped out, I can't receive their tribute. Returning empty-handed would ruin my reputation. Hearing him, the sect master immediately asked, "What are you trying to say?" Garyu didn't hide it and said directly, "All right. I'll be direct. I don't care who wiped out the Hyukdo sect. 2,000 family estates. I just need to bring back the requested amount. I respected you earlier, sect master. Now you must respect me." Hearing that, the sect master's face turned pale. "Are you planning to collect tribute from the families of the righteous faction?" he said. The guy replied, "That's a harsh way to put it. This isn't tribute, it's a consolation fee." But he was extremely uncomfortable with those words. "Then, did you demand this consolation fee from the Namgung family?" Then Garyu began to explain. "The Namgung family, don't be ridiculous. If I did that, I wouldn't get a single coin, and I'd be killed by that old man. I heard the Hyelma sect did quite well last time. Right? Consider this a condolence payment for the poor souls of the Hyukdo sect. Sounds pretty good now, doesn't it?" The sect master replied, "All right, just give us some time." As soon as he heard that, the guy flew straight up. "Listen, time is precious for everyone." Hearing Goryo's words, the sect master felt even more helpless. "If I anger the demon staff, the Hyelma sect will be wiped out tonight. And even if I ask the Namgung family for help, it's not certain they'll help. And in the end, all I can do is bring me all the money." A moment later, a bag of gold was brought. Garyu laughed heartily with joy as soon as he saw the gold. He continued, "I will give you this money, so don't touch anyone from my sect." Goryo looked up and said, "I'm not a monster. I understand that. But for someone who willingly gives me a consolation fee, you sure exude a lot of killing intent. Anyway, I'll take it. That is my apology for spitting on you earlier." At this, Aiku bowed her head and bid him farewell. But the sect master just remained silent with a grim face. Having gotten the money, Garyu quickly left. "I'll be taking my leave. No need to see me out. The moon is so bright I can find my own way." Outside, two young boys were gossiping. "Hey, have you heard?" The escort said, "That bastard is strong enough to kill everyone there by himself. Good thing we could solve it with money. If you're dead, you're done for. It's scary to think about." Suddenly, the fat guy appeared out of nowhere. He held a bag of chicken thighs in his hand and yelled, "Where is he?" "Elder brother Sion, huh? What's in your hand?" "The feast was ruined, so I thought there was nothing left to eat. It's true only a big brother would think of us." But the fat man yelled angrily, "Not you guys, I'm asking where Suji is." "We don't know. We haven't seen him for a while." He growled, "Suji." Then he thought to himself, "Hey, Fatso, you should be grateful to that kid for the rest of your life. You were saved thanks to him." The fat man gritted his teeth and said each word, looking very much like a Suji. "My dear Suji, where are you?" The night had fallen. Someone was carrying a stick with a bundle tied to it. Garyu laughed excitedly in the dark of the night. "So it's done." As he was walking, he suddenly stopped at the end of the bridge on the other side. Garyu saw someone blocking his way. Suji had been waiting there for him. The guy looked up and flashed a sly smile. "I thought you were some kind of monster." Garyu's words were contemptuous. "But you're just a human." The guy recognized Suji's identity after a quick glance. "Aren't you the stable boy from earlier? Why are you following me? Is it because I insulted your lover?" But he just narrowed his eyes and didn't answer. Goryo spread his arms wide and replied, "To be clear, if you've come to avenge the woman you love, then you're mistaken. It's true I spat in her face, but she didn't even fall for the bait." The guy was very sure and emphasized, in other words, "My insult was wasted, so there's no grudge to avenge." Suji then looked up and emphasized, "Perhaps because you're a half-assed imitation of a monk. That's why you only speak nonsense. Enough talk." Then he held his weapon and resolutely walked towards Suji. With a ferocious attitude, he loudly demanded, "Hand over the money." But that only made Goryo burst out laughing. "It's been 45 years since I've heard someone dare to say that. The one who said that to me was the Demon King, the treacherous knight." The guy looked up and then emphasized, "And now you're next." Goryu cracked a smile before swinging his weapon. Suji was a step faster, backing away. Then he turned to look at his own trembling hand. Suddenly the man praised him, then asked, "Nice spear, what's its name?" Suji just replied with 2 words, "Doesn't have one." Goryu showed a somewhat regretful expression. "A spear this exquisite, what a shame." Then he tightened his grip on his own weapon. "Actually, this thing used to be a spear too." Goryu pointed it forward, explaining its nature. "But ever since the blade broke, I've just used it as a staff. Still, since it was forged from black iron, it's really durable. It's a bit heavy, but that's its only flaw." He even smiled excitedly, emphasizing, "If the spearhead was still intact, I'd be called the demon spear by now, not the demon staff. Such a shame." Suji then retorted, "No matter how sturdy it is." He got into a ready stance, emphasizing, "In the end, it's just a spear with a broken tip." Suji relentlessly advanced with his spear. It's become a wolf with a wandering fighting style, but its fangs have been pulled. He widened his eyes, emphasizing with some contempt, Just like you right now. Goryu's eyes widened as he began to feel fear. His face contorted, drenched in sweat. Damn it! You scum! Goryu's hat was pierced by the spear. His face was knocked back, splattering blood. Goryu continuously spun his staff contemptuously. A sneak attack. In a duel between men. Truly pathetic. He smirked mysteriously. Suji's eyes began to show clear caution. Then Goryu summoned a terrifying surge of power. He grabbed the rope part on the bridge. Then Suji jumped up and flung it. He now focused all his attention observing. Seeing Suji throw something at him, Goryu still wasn't scared. Now what, iron caltrops? He then burst out laughing mockingly. What a cheap trick. But these little games won't work on me. Goryu launched a counterattack. Immediately after, Suji was very close. Regardless, the man had to admit one thing. You're tougher than I thought. Goryu relentlessly closed in with his techniques. Just because I spat in your lover's face, you're that pissed. How naive. Suji planted his hand on the bridge's surface. Then he used his momentum to flip his entire body. Suji's heel kicked the man in the head. Goryu clenched his teeth, furious. Then he was kicked squarely in the middle of his face. Goryu felt a sharp pain inside him. What is this? The saliva is burning. Could it be the poison techniques of the Sichuan Tang clan? Only then did he begin to feel afraid. What the hell is this guy? He's messing with my vision. Goryu clutched his eyes and let out a scream of agony. Taking this opportunity, Suji charged straight ahead. The man was still clutching his eyes, grinding his teeth. Goryu took this chance to stand up and advance. Only now did his eyes truly open. Looks like I underestimated the Tiger's Lair sect. I never expected a common stable boy to be this strong. Then Goryu became certain of one thing. No way. He began to have a different feeling. Someone like him couldn't have been trained by the Tiger's Lair sect. Moreover, he's completely different. Goryu could feel one thing for sure. This fighting style can't be called orthodox. What made him feel strange were the movements that paid no attention to form or etiquette. Finally, Goryu had to conclude. His entire body is a weapon for killing. Then, regaining his composure, he issued a challenge. I don't care if you're a demon or some kind of monster. Bring it on. Goryu's entire body began to glow. He held out his hand and declared powerfully, I'll drag you to hell myself. But Suji seemed surprised. He gripped his sharp spear tightly. Suji raised it forward and smirked. You talk too much. His face became tense. Goryu also focused all his concentration. The two stood facing each other for a long moment. Both of their faces became taut. Their feet dug into the ground, gathering momentum. The sharp spear lunged forward. The opponent's staff also lunged forward. The two clashed head-on. A flash of light erupted in the middle of the bridge. Then someone fell from the bridge. Blood spurted from Suji's body. His expression darkened. The man clenched his teeth in pain. Damn it! My arm. Then Goryu stood up, looking imposing. The price was heavy, but the man pointed his spear and declared, I've won. Suji's sharp spear shot forward. Goryu's staff was also thrown with great force. The two sides attacked each other head-on with great ferocity. His eyes lit up, waiting for the result. But the man's face contorted as he clenched his teeth. As the two weapons clashed, there was a strange movement. Suji's eyes widened, shot with blood. He used his strength to quickly pull the spear back. Suji aimed that spear right at the man's face. Goryu at this point had to admit, you're a fast learner. The man looked at the spear piercing his arm, but Goryu still seemed incredibly calm. You can take my left arm, but in exchange, the man said coldly, as he thrust the staff into his chest. Goryu bared his teeth in a delighted smile and declared, I'll take your heart. Suji's entire body began to go limp. Blood poured from his body. The man lifted his chin, showing a clear, arrogant attitude. I've won, but at too high a cost. I can't believe it. At this moment, Goryu's face became calm again. A kid like that could actually threaten me. Was he a child raised on the path of the demonic blade? What? Suddenly, the continuous flow of blood made him panic. The internal injuries are worse than I thought. Goryu raised his hand, his evil intentions growing more determined. This kid, I really can't let him live. I have to finish him right here. But then he was horrified by what he witnessed. Goryu raised his spear forward, startled. What the? He screamed, sweating profusely in disbelief. What the hell? What the hell is keeping you standing? But Suji didn't answer. Instead, Goryu, looking at his opponent, now felt fear. Is it money? Is it pride, the will to fight, or love? What is driving you? Then he spoke up, emphasizing fear. The man backed away, gritting his teeth in disbelief. What? Suji recovered, looking down deeply, and asked, Do you know where people go after they die? He looked down, his eyes glowing. Suji looked down into the terrifying pit filled with screams. Then he declared without hesitation, Let's go there together. Suji turned his face, clearly stating the reason. When you think that's what happens after death, you'll never allow yourself to die. But Goryu still didn't believe it and laughed with amusement. Are you hallucinating? He broke out in a sweat, feeling tense and scared. He's standing up because he's afraid of death. What on earth has he seen? But in his heart, Goryu was also sure of one thing. I'm dying to know, but I don't intend to die. He stomped his foot hard on the ground. Goryu gripped the staff in his hand tightly. I won't die in a place like this. Then he powerfully swung the staff forward. I will die peacefully in my bed, when I'm a frail old man. But Tsuji quickly jumped back. He clenched his jaw tightly in anger. Tsuji gripped the spear, wanting to counterattack. Goryu was also determined not to let that happen. The spear swung horizontally, approaching the opponent. He attacked with an incredibly agile blow. At this moment, Tsuji, under attack, declared bluntly, he cut off 2 of my fingers. But you're done for. The man's eyes widened, looking surprised and bewildered. Then, Goryu screamed out a question. What the hell did you just spit out? His eyes blazed fiercely as he declared, you will die here today. The man's face contorted in extreme pain. Goryu, in agony, wanted to counterattack. Stay put! He looked at his opponent, and only felt more fear and confusion. What is he? He should have been. Goryu screamed and charged straight ahead. Dealt a fatal blow! How is he still charging? Goryu screamed in fear. What the hell are you? He didn't hesitate, but threw his spear straight at him. Die, you monster! Then it pierced through his head. Blood splattered all around. The staff, as a result, flew far behind. At this, Goryu laughed with excitement. I won. This is my victory. He fiercely launched a direct attack. Just lie down and die. I'll put you out of your misery. With just one blow. But Tsuji suddenly rushed out, blocking his path. Goryu jumped back, confused. Then his face turned pale with fear. He still has the strength to move. I'm sure I crushed his head. Goryu looked down, wondering. Since when? He clenched his teeth, becoming even more tense. He took my blow, and broke my spear at the same time. Are you trying to take me down with you? But Goryu's face contorted, while Tsuji boldly and bluntly declared, only you are going to hell. The man tensed up and ran forward quickly, but he quickly followed behind. Goryu grew even more frightened, becoming more and more bewildered. What is this pressure? Don't tell me that kid is still alive. Even if he is, he can't attack in this condition. He must just be struggling uselessly before he dies. But he's someone who can't be measured by common sense. He turned back, having to encourage himself. No way. No way. Impossible. His hand slowly approached. Slowly, from Tsuji's finger, a long vine extended forward. It pierced straight into Goryu's forehead. No, now the man had to admit one thing. Turns out he's human after all. And I thought he was a monster. Goryu fell back, his face upturned, eyes wide and white. I thought you were human. A monster, no. Finally, the man had to admit in shock. So you're the Grim Reaper? At this, Tsuji jumped straight down. After a moment, he managed to grab onto a wooden plank. Blood dripped down from the vine. Then Tsuji gripped that fragile vine tightly. He tried his best to hang precariously from it. Tsuji glanced down nervously. I'm too messed up. Tsuji clutched his heart, his whole body in agony. Cracked skull-torn organs. Then he looked down and understood. My leg is probably broken too, but Tsuji was determined not to give up on life. As long as I'm not dead, I can still recover. It's the blood seal, the cursed magic absolute demonic arts. He closed his eyes, somewhat tense. Even old Goo said it. Tsuji finally understood one thing. The reason he can continue to seek revenge, even with a shattered body, is thanks to the extraordinary healing power of the absolute demonic arts. At this, he snapped his eyes open and looked again. Thanks to that, my life was saved too. Should I be grateful for it? From high above, a figure appeared. Goryu, in a charred state, fell from above. His entire body was surrounded by embers. At this, Tsuji remained calm and reminded himself, don't mess with me. Rocks suddenly fell from above. Tsuji was caught up in it, his face tense. He was pinned down by something. Around him, voices continued to echo. Eerily. Just die already, how pathetic. DB buried alive, buried alive. Buried alive, buried alive. But Tsuji was still lying on the ground. Huh. A glowing red, vengeful spirit appeared. He opened his eyes and glanced over, observing cautiously. It approached, letting out a few growls. Tsuji's mouth opened slightly. But from it, the sound Megan kept echoing. Goryu. It dragged its heavy feet, getting closer. It appeared with an enormous form. The voices continued to echo, Megan. Goryu. It clenched its teeth tightly. In its hand, it held a long staff. Then it let out a ferocious roar. That voice continued to echo, demon staff. It screamed the rest of the phrase, Goryu. Tsuji calmly glanced up, unfazed. Suddenly, it began to deform. Its body gradually became distorted and strange. He looked up, waiting calmly. Then Tsuji absorbed that power. His eyes opened lazily. At this moment, he raised his hand, calmly speculating. A cursed, vengeful spirit that has reached the peak of its power. Looks like taming it will take quite some time. However, Tsuji then touched that resentful energy with his hand. Then he turned and left with a determined look. This will be the elixir. That helps me step from the compression stage to the ruined body stage. Time to go back. Then Suji looked down at his leg in pain. Damn it, my leg! In his mind, he had already planned a few things. When I get back, the first thing is to focus on healing my body. Opening the Ren and Du meridians can wait. Suddenly, Suji saw something, but immediately after Suji dismissed it. This thing can't even be used as a walking stick. Suddenly, he turned his head to look in one direction. Suji was stunned and wondered, what's that? Then he gripped that staff tightly. Suji picked it up and had to exclaim, so heavy. He narrowed his eyes, feeling worried and apprehensive. If this was originally a complete spear? Suji remembered and felt stunned. The one who died might have been me. He also told himself determinedly, so I don't become a toothless dog like this thing. I have to forge my spear to be even sharper. After some time, Suji arrived at a street full of red lanterns. He carried a staff with a white bag tied to it. Suji continued to walk slowly forward. Then he set the staff down on the ground. Suji leaned against the wall in pain. Suji panted heavily, utterly exhausted. Even after absorbing the power from the absolute demonic, I still haven't fully recovered. He was still suffering the consequences of that battle. Since coming back to the past until now, for the first time, I put all my strength into that fight. He was growing more and more exhausted, so tired. Suji could feel everything through his body. Every drop of rain that falls feels like a needle piercing my skin. He felt like he was carrying a heavy burden. The staff and the bag on my shoulder feel unusually heavy. His strength was gradually giving out. Just close my eyes for a bit, just a short rest. Before Aiku had scratched her cheek, understanding. I know you have your reasons, so I can't say much. She smiled brightly and affirmed with certainty, but as long as you're in the Tiger's Lair sect, we're still family. Then Suji snapped back to reality. He smiled happily. Family, huh? A place where I can rest easy. Then Suji calmly walked away, emphasizing, a place like that. It doesn't suit me at all. The quiet night fell upon the Tiger's Lair sect. Inside the room there was the light of a lamp. I knew it, the martial world is really... Aiku's silhouette appeared sitting at the table, accompanied by a tired sigh. With an expression full of sorrow, she pouted and thought, I knew it, the martial world truly is. A place where the strong survive. The good are not allowed to be weak. A world where only the strong can uphold their principles and beliefs to the end. Then Aiku reached out and opened a scroll. At the same time, she narrowed her eyes and thought to herself, Father passed that on. And so have I. The words that appeared were Martial Alliance. Dengtian Academy. Dengtian Academy Acceptance Letter. Dengtian Academy. Images of the elements also appeared. An academy under the Martial Alliance, where youths aged 16 to 18 are recruited and trained to become the talents that lead the martial world. Aiku was seen covering her face and letting out a tired sigh. Next, she broke into a sweat, frowning as she thought, I applied, yet in secret, and I actually got in. I was planning to, after graduating from the academy, use that experience to support the sect. But the problem is the tuition is too high. Aiku clenched her fists at this moment. A thought suddenly flashed through her mind. If only I had had that money. The image of a gleaming gold piece appeared in her mind. Aiku thought of this and shook her head vigorously. At the same time, she silently consoled herself. No, as long as I could save the people of the Tiger's Lair sect, that's enough. No regrets. Then she walked to the window and reached out to open it. Should I go outside and get some fresh air? A gentle breeze from outside blew past. Aiku, in a relaxed mood, smiled faintly. Maybe this will make me feel a little better. She only saw the pouring rain coming down. The expression on her face had also become disappointed. Relaxing my butt, Aiku couldn't help but yell angrily. Why is even the weather messing with me? This is so unfair. Contrary to her, the horse next to her seemed extremely happy. Aiku saw this and became even more irritable. What are you the only one happy, Bong? I'm about to go crazy here. Suddenly, she was startled and looked behind her. Next, Aiku frowned suspiciously. What's that sound? Let's go check it out, Bong. At that moment, at her feet was a stream of red blood mixed with rainwater. Q couldn't hide her fear at this sight. Next, she broke out in a cold sweat and screamed, This!
This is... In her mind, a question arose. Blood.
Next, Aiku raised an eyebrow and wondered to herself, This much? Who in the world? In the dark night, a figure appeared. Around the person before her, a dark energy radiated, extremely powerfully, which couldn't help but startle Aiku. She tried to suppress her fear and asked, Are you a person? She or a ghost? The other person was silent for a moment, then spoke in a low voice. Just appeared like that. Aiku's voice echoed at the same time, Must be a ghost. Suji froze for a moment after hearing these words. At the same time, his eyes glanced down at his hand, and then he abruptly turned and walked away. Aiku was startled by this and thought, He's a person. Next, she called out loudly, "Hey, wait!" Aiku was seen throwing a bag towards Suji. Then she raised her eyebrows, suggesting, "This is healing medicine. It's not expensive. But if you need it, just use it." Aiku looked at the other person and confessed, "I don't know what happened. I can't just get involved in martial world feuds, but at least I also can't ignore someone in trouble right in front of me." Next, she closed her eyes tightly and hesitated before shouting, If you don't want it, if you don't need it, just throw it away and leave." Suji said nothing and just smiled faintly. Then he reached out and picked up the bag. Aiku was startled by this. The bag was thrown hard onto the ground, and she stumbled back in alarm. "What's wrong?" Looking at the bag emitting a dark aura made Aiku break out in a cold sweat. "What is it? Suji, with an ice-cold expression, glanced back. At the same time, he suggested, "Put it on the horse." With that, he turned his back and walked away into the darkness ahead. At the same time, Aiku hurriedly called out after him, "Hey, wait!" But her eyes were also drawn to the bag that had just been thrown back by Suji. A thought suddenly appeared in Aiku's mind. What's in that sack? Judging by the size and the smell of blood, don't tell me it's... And then she turned pale with fear and thought to herself, speculating ahead. Next, Aiku, trembling, reached out to touch the bag while thinking, if it's true, I have to check and report it to the authorities. She was so scared that she squeezed her eyes shut. Next, Aiku slowly opened her eyes to observe what was inside the bag. But as soon as she saw the glowing object in the bag, she couldn't hide her surprise. This is... A question simultaneously appeared in her head. The Tiger's Lair sect's funds, were they stolen by corrupt subordinates? Suddenly Aiku was startled and turned her head to look towards Suji. She only saw that he was about to disappear from sight. The red bloodstain under his feet was also imprinted on the ground. She hurriedly stood up and ran after the person in front of her. "Wait just a moment." Aiku looked after him and questioned loudly, "How did you get this?" Suddenly her pupils constricted, as if she had just witnessed a strange sight. She only saw before her the scene of a large sprawling bloodstain on the ground. The image of a bag of gold with a sparkling light appeared in the rain. The large bloodstains seemed to stick to the cold ground. Thunder clapped across the dark sky. At the same time, Aiku's bewildered voice rang out, "You. What the hell are you? Who are you?" Aiku looked at the gold in front of her and hesitated. This is... A thought simultaneously appeared in her mind. The Tiger's Lair's funds that the tyrannical Demon King stole. Really? Suddenly she was startled and looked forward. A voice echoed in her head. "Why?" At the same time, Aiku hurriedly stood up and ran after him. "Hey, wait!" Then she thought to herself, "Why do your footsteps sound so tired?" Aiku's hurried footsteps echoed throughout the space. Her thoughts also appeared lonely and full of pain. Tears had fallen from her beautiful face, she didn't know since when. With a tear-streaked face, she whimpered to herself, "You." Aiku looked at the sprawling red bloodstain on the ground. At the same time, she exclaimed, "Who are you?" A loud noise suddenly echoed from the roof. At the same time, Suji fell hard from above to the ground. Suddenly, he became alert, as if he had sensed something. She only saw Suji immediately grab the weapon next to him. At the same time, he thought to himself, someone's here who would come at this hour? Right at this moment, Yu Seon, standing behind him, exclaimed in shock, "Ah!" Then he called out in surprise, "Suji!" Suji frowned upon hearing the familiar voice and thought to himself, "It's him again. I don't have the energy to deal with your antics today." Next, Yu Seon ran over and asked cheerfully, "Where have you been all this time?" While he, with his hand twitching continuously, sighed to himself, "What a pain." The boy, with a longing expression, tightly gripped the other's hand. "My benefactor, I've been looking for you everywhere. The meat and rice cakes I saved for you have all gone cold." Seeing this, he clicked his tongue and muttered to himself, "This is a different kind of annoying." And then Useon looked all over the person in front of him, with a worried expression. Hey, what's wrong with your body? Where did you get beaten up? What bastards dared to do this to my brother? I don't know what gang it is, but I can't let this go." Suji at this point pushed his hand away and suggested, "Shut up and bring me the ingredients I'm about to list. Get them from Captain Chu." Useon heard this and replied, all right." Next, he started listing poria, trachelospermicaulis resin, fenugreek seeds, flax seeds, moringa longan. The boy, sweating profusely, complained as he wrote it down. "Wait, that's too much. Where am I supposed to get all that right now?" Suji didn't care and sat down calmly. "I told you get it from Captain Chu." Useon was startled when he heard this name. "Captain Chu?" "Captain Chu of the Honghu Escort Agency." Next, he yelled in fear, "Are you crazy? I have to ask her for that stuff?" But Suji spoke calmly. "You just have to say it's my request. She will give it to you." He was so mad you could see his fists were clenched and shaking. Man, what a pain. I don't even dare to lay a hand on her. And so Yu Xuan, with a helpless look on his face, turned to leave, waving his hand dismissively. "All right, fine. Whatever, it's a request from my benefactor. At worst, they'll just call me a psycho once. What should I say when I get there? He squinted from behind and reminded him in a low voice, "Tell her the assistant sent you. She'll understand." He glanced back without a word. Then he broke into a sweat and mumbled, maybe saying the stable boy sent me would sound better. At the same time, around Suji's body, a powerful red energy radiated. That enormous power continuously erupted, and he thought to himself, currently my demonic title is in the 10th compression stage. And before his eyes, an illusion of a blazing red tiger appeared. Suji also looked up at the giant spirit animal. Then he thought deeply to himself, what's necessary to open this gate is to clear the Ren and Du meridians, drain all the blood from the body and replace it with a spiritual elixir. A question arose in his mind. Very dangerous. But my acupoints were already completely opened. During the battle with the tyrannical demon king, could it be that I've already drawn too much blood? At this moment, he reached for the sword beside him, while thinking about the missing part of the elixir. I will substitute it with the tyrannical demon king's demonic title. Sounds like something getting stuck echoed. He only saw Suji forcefully clench his fist. The sound echoed once more, throughout the space. That powerful energy continued to radiate. The expression on his face turned cold. The power around his body showed no signs of cooling down. Then Suji gently closed his eyes, as if feeling the flow of energy surrounding him. At the same time, Yusheng, with a large bag in his hand, hurriedly called out, Suji, you? After all. Kui's voice echoed in his head. Who are you? What? You said he was injured. I'm leaving. Not exactly. He has some plan in mind. If you need anything, come find me immediately. He also broke into a sweat, looking curious. Do you two know each other? Suddenly he approached, and placed his hand on the large bag. Quiet! Yuuzhan was startled and exclaimed, Huh? Next, Suji commanded in a low voice. Don't let anyone enter this room until I come out. If anything happens, report to Captain Zhu. With a bewildered expression, he looked at the slowly closing door. He only heard a sound echo. Yuxuan's face disappeared, replaced by a dark space. Inside, Suji closed his eyes and thought to himself, demonic energy. If I pass the compression stage and move to the refinement stage, no one will recognize this as a demonic art anymore, except for him, the founder of the demonic title. A series of questions arose in his heart. Where is he now? What is he doing? Is he still being hunted by the Martial Arts Alliance and the Demonic Alliance, or is he still ruling the heavenly demon cult like a sacred king? Right. Is he looking for disciples like me and Akui? Suji was seen standing alone in the middle of a battle. He wasn't afraid at all, but calmly took step after step forward. The image of a person whose face was unclear sitting cross-legged appeared. In front was a person kneeling, but Suji's footsteps still echoed, accompanied by a trail of blazing red smoke. He didn't hesitate, but went straight up to that giant thing. Then Suji reached out and touched it. Suddenly, from behind, the voice of the faceless person echoed, You're leaving. Hearing that, he was startled and turned around. And that person threw something from their hand, while smirking. Really? Suji quickly caught the thing that was flying towards him. It was a stone. And then the mysterious person said, Farewell, brother. That voice kept ringing in his head. That's right. Stay well, brother. At that moment, Suji snapped his eyes open awake. A black liquid still lingered around him. He lay in the middle of a pile of hay, wide-eyed, asking himself, Did I succeed? Next, Suji sat up. Looks like that fat guy guarded the door pretty well. Next, he pushed the door open and stepped out, exclaiming, Huh! Suji looked at the sight of Yuuzhan sleeping on the ground and frowned in dissatisfaction. The strong smell coming from his body successfully woke the sleeping person. He hurriedly sat up and questioned loudly, Suji, are you okay? What is this smell, Suji? The leaves blew in the wind in the quiet night. At the same time, Suji's thoughts appeared, first stage of refinement. Each leaf seemed to be cut by something, as they fell one by one. That voice continued to echo in Suji's head, the peak stage of mastery that the sects talk about. Now that all preparations are complete, is it time for the next stage? His foot gently stepped on a leaf to launch himself forward. Suji, with a cold expression, frowned and thought, The Zuo family and the Black Blade sect, my third revenge target, the ruler of Anhui and the peak of the 5 great families. He carried a resentful look, muttering to himself, the Nangong family. A torrential rain poured down on the Zhonghu sect. Inside, the voice of Zhenin was heard. The Nangong family has sent an invitation. He spoke while sipping from his wine cup. They're holding the grand banquet a bit earlier than usual this year. The person opposite him couldn't help but be surprised. A grand banquet? Why would they invite us, a small sect, to a gathering of the major righteous sects in Anhui? Hearing this, Gwen offered her speculation. The Zhao family, the representative of Gaoshuan, has disappeared. It seems they're in need of a replacement. Thaizen spoke as she lifted the pot to pour more wine. Even though we are innocent, the way they look at us won't be friendly. Jenin also put down his cup and bowed his head wearily. I suppose so. In the martial world, only strength gives you a voice. If you're weak, you have to endure it no matter how wronged you are. Moreover, before the great mountain that is the Nangong family, we are nothing. She heard this and gently reassured him. Don't worry too much. Have you heard the news? The precious young lady of the Nangong family, who once studied at the Dengxian Academy, is about to return. He exclaimed in surprise. Are you talking about the sword blossom young lady Nangong Yue? Saizen now smiled cheerfully. That's right, the ladies are gossiping that. The purpose of this banquet is to show off their daughter a sort of debutante event, and to brag about all sorts of things. But Jenin chuckled at that. If that's really the case, then I'm happy. I could listen to a father brag about his daughter all day long. Next, he gently assessed. Actually, my daughter, Akui, is certainly no less impressive than the Nangong young lady. Hearing this, she broke into a nervous sweat. My lord, why would you say that? Jenin said in a low voice. It's just the truth. Next, he sighed. My Akui is second to none in looks, talent, or personality. The only thing she lacks is useless parents. I have to help her get further before it's too late. As a father, I'm truly ashamed. After mentioning Akui, Jenin downed the cup in his hand. Saizen watched this, looking a bit pensive. At that moment, a figure rushed inside. Father, mother, no. Akui pushed the door open, shouting, Father, mother! Jenin saw who had just entered and exclaimed in surprise, My daughter, it's so good to hear you call me father again. She, with a scroll in her hand, suggested in a low voice, That's not important right now. I have something to show you. Akui, holding the acceptance letter, smiled with delight. When the two saw what was before them, they were startled and exclaimed in unison, What? What is this, an acceptance letter to Dengxian Academy? Saizen covered her mouth with an astonished expression. My goodness, look at this perfect scores in all subjects. My daughter ranked first. First place, Jenin announced excitedly. We have to throw a celebration. I'll organize a grand banquet for our family, too. Suddenly, Akui's voice dropped. Wait, father, mother. The tuition. Hearing that, he immediately shouted, You don't need to worry about that. I'll get the money, even if I have to sell the very pillars of this sect. The woman beside him agreed. That's right. You just focus on studying. Don't worry about a thing. She was seen holding a large bag while raising an eyebrow. No. Then she threw a large bag of gold in front of them. The two looked at the gleam of money, unable to hide their surprise. No way! This is... Oh my God! At the same time, Akui comforted her parents. You don't need to worry anymore. She smiled confidently. I've brought all the money we need. Scene change. To a clear blue lake with rays of sunlight, shining down warmly. The image of a horse bowing its head to drink water appears. Behind it are the silhouettes of two people. Akui gently brushed her hair with her hand, while thinking to herself, It's strange. Since the day Suji arrived, everything has been going much more smoothly. Then she walked step by step towards the other person, who was sitting and playing with fire. My little good luck charm. Next, Akui raised an eyebrow curiously. I haven't seen you around lately. Where have you been wandering off to? And has anything changed since the last time? I saw you a few days ago. He heard the question, but remained silent. She saw this and glared angrily. This! And then Akui swung her hand and hit Suji on the head, shouting, What are you so lost in thought about? After taking the hit, he looked over dazed, and she sat down frowning and questioned him. Why didn't you answer when I called you? What were you doing? Suji replied unhappily, just this and that. At the same time, a thought appeared in his mind. I'm planning how to disrupt the Nangong family. The angry voice of a person echoed. At that time, an elder of the Nangong family colluded with the Zhao family and the Black Blade sect, and covered up the brutal suppression of the Zhonghu sect. The Nangong family, just because they had the power to do so. The Nangong family? They are a superpower, recognized for their autonomy in Anhui. Therefore, they have a responsibility to maintain order by intervening in disputes between other sects and families. However, even within the Nangong family, a corrupt faction exists. They turn a blind eye to the cruel schemes that occur in the disputes of the lower-level factions, and in return they accept bribes. An important elder, one who was on Akui's hit list, the image of an old man with a sword, sharp in his hand, appeared. Only the sound of footsteps, stomping hard on the ground, was heard. Then that old man stabbed his sword straight into Suji's chest. Red blood immediately spurted from his mouth. Suji's thoughts also appeared. One of the people who hunted me in my past life. His face at this moment showed an indescribable resentment. At the same time, Akui wondered, Are the kids still bothering you a lot? Suji heard that and glanced over. Not really, just... She stood up tiredly and warned, That's enough. Can't be helped. And then Akui tilted her head and suggested, Suji, do you want to go with me? He only saw Suji raise his hand to his forehead to shield his eyes from the sun, shining down brightly. Next, Akui looked up at the blue sky. This time I was accepted into Dengxian Academy. An image of Akui from the past appeared, and as the top student. But I couldn't go because of a lack of money. If I had been accepted there, my life would have been different. Akui, with a determined expression, stated her intention. I will definitely enroll in Dengxian Academy, broaden my horizons, make connections, and then return. And I want my family to grow. Then she happily offered to Suji, you're hardworking, obedient, and talented. If you agree, come with me to Dengxian Academy. Life there will be more comfortable than here. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. As soon as he heard those words, Suji closed his eyes and smiled, thinking to himself, the dream you couldn't fulfill in your past life. When all this is over, you will be able to achieve it yourself. Kui, with a look of anticipation, moved closer to him. You'll go with me. Right. He squinted and smiled. That depends. Hearing that, she looked dissatisfied. What playing hard to get? Next, Kui raised an eyebrow and glanced back. Well, I'll take that as a temporary yes. Dengxian Academy is far away. If there's anything you need to take care of, prepare in advance. Do you owe anyone money or anything? Suji answered honestly, there are a few debts to collect. Hearing this, she was startled. What? Then Akui's eyes widened and she yelled, debts, you have debts to collect. Then we have to deal with it right away. Collect everything you're owed, you understand? No, let's go, I'll collect it all for you. A gentle breeze blew, making her hair fly. At the same time, he smiled. No matter what, a debt must be collected in full. At the same time, Suji growled each word in his head. Every last penny, every last drop of blood. With a triumphant look, he smirked slyly and affirmed to himself, all of it. The scene shifts to the Nangong family. Many carriages were bustling in and out of the city. Zenin had just stepped down and was respectfully welcomed by Akui. You've all worked hard. Welcome, Sectmaster and young lady. He nodded. You all have done well, too. Guard, thanks to you, the journey was very comfortable. Guard, you, let's go inside. Over with Yushan and his buddies. The three of them stood there stunned. His jaw dropped, unable to believe the scene before him. So this is the Nangong family, Yushan exclaimed foolishly. It's so big and beautiful. Everyone is so handsome and beautiful. I heard the Nangong family even chooses their servants and maids based on their looks. Looks like it's true. One of the buddies mumbled insecurely. Compared to them, Yushan gritted his teeth and dismissed it. Don't be scared. We're the good-looking ones here. As soon as he finished speaking, from behind him came sounds of praise. Wow, oh my. Where did you come from? Where did you come from? Working alone. Turning around, he saw a crowd of women fawning over Suji. Look at those strong arms. I just couldn't help myself. Look at that sweat. Let me wipe it for you. He crossed his arms in annoyance and sighed internally. What a pain. Yushan witnessed this and cursed jealously. Damn it, that bastard, a buddy reminded him. Huh? Didn't we say we'd be nice to Suji? He snapped back to reality. Oh yeah, you're right. I just couldn't help myself. Suji suddenly glanced over at them. The buddy immediately became timid. He saw us. The next second, Suji unexpectedly disappeared from the spot, leaving behind the relentlessly clinging women. He suddenly teleported to Yushuan's location. Suji gently patted his shoulder and instructed, I'm leaving the rest to you. After saying that, he threw Yushuan behind to deal with the crazy women chasing him. He stammered, Hey Suji, but before Yushan could even compose himself, a group of women with stern faces rushed over to question him. Hey you, a handsome guy just passed by, right? Where did he go? Yushan awkwardly scratched his head, but the words that came out were shameless, whom he well as expected. He quickly received a bunch of disdainful looks. Sorry. The women left one by one holding hands. Someone didn't forget to glare angrily at Yushuan. What the hell's so annoying? Let's go, girls. Hey, Yushan was heartbroken with tears in his eyes. Suji, you bastard! Before long, the afternoon sunset descended. A carriage was parked in a quiet corner of the street. Suji was silently hiding on a rooftop, observing a strange man aggressively yelling. Hey, you bastard, what are you standing there for? The party is about to start. Get to work, you lazy bums. A slave stumbled and dropped a bowl of meat. The man angrily tightened his grip on the whip in his hand. Is this bastard crazy? Do you have any idea how much this piece of meat is worth? The crude man ruthlessly beat the young man. Even selling your body wouldn't be enough to buy it. Understand, you lowlife? The weak slave covered his head and cowered. Help me, the man spat in frustration. So busy, so annoying. The man annoyedly stomped on the slave's hand and ordered another slave. Drag this bastard out of here. Hurry up and have you properly prepared the sacrifice for the bloodline ritual. The second slave bowed his head fearfully and replied, Yes. As you instructed, we brought it back without draining its blood. Well, there's a small problem. The man glared impatiently. What's the problem? The second slave, while anxiously looking at his two co-workers, reported in a panic. The wolf we caught for the sacrifice is too big. Just the two of us can't pull it. The man swung his hand and whipped continuously at these three slaves. You idiots, why didn't you find someone to help you? They scrambled away. Yes, sir. The man snorted and clicked his tongue. Useless. At this moment, the man noticed the carriage containing the sacrifice, suddenly shaking slightly. He was startled. What? The curtain was blown by the wind, revealing a glimpse of a dark figure with glowing red eyes inside. The man coldly threw away his whip. His muscular arm drew a sword, preparing to step forward and act. He seethed with anger and barked, "Those bastards. They brought the sacrifice for the ritual, without even checking if it was dead. I'll have to chop off a leg when they get back. Can't even have peace during the party. What a pain, tisk!" He jumped straight into the carriage with a vile smile. "Now where are you, you damned wolf?" Under the man's foot, he stepped on something fluffy. He knelt down and tried to pat its head. "What's this, a wolf cub? Making such a fuss over something so small?" But the next second, the man was stunned. He didn't expect another wolf in the carriage. Its height and size nearly filled the entire compartment. More importantly, its expression and eyes were absolutely insane. He was stunned and swore, "Holy crap. What the hell is this thing? It's huge." After regaining his composure, the man laughed with delight. "Ha ha!" He declared to the wolf, "The bloodline ritual will surely be a great success. This time those idiots really hit the jackpot. The family head will be very pleased." The man was lost in his thoughts, and didn't notice that behind him, a rope suddenly shot out, wrapping tightly around his neck, arms, and legs. Before the man could react, his entire body was lifted up. He could only struggle helplessly, crying out, "Save me!" Suji slowly stepped out from the darkness. He pondered silently. The Nangong family's residence. "I'm really curious about the internal structure." The man gritted his teeth and retorted, "You think I'll talk?" Suji leisurely tugged the rope lightly. "You don't have to say anything." The man's face turned red from choking. He died from lack of oxygen. His soul was pulled from his body and easily caught by Suji. He carried the man's soul and turned to look at his corpse one last time. Just as expected, the dead are always more honest than the living. Over at Yushuan's location, he was somehow dragged into work, even though he had explained himself until he was blue in the face. "Hey, buddy, we don't belong to the Nangong family, seriously." Yushuan declared resentfully, "We are the tiger's lair." The pleading slave quickly cut him off. "Sorry, I'll bring meat and food later." "Please help me." Then Yushuan angrily pulled his hand away from the slave. The person coaxed him. "You just have to pull this, wolf. Where is the warrior?" Another person came over, nudging the slave with his shoulder as a reminder. "What are you standing there for? Hurry and pull it before we get yelled at again." The slave said perfunctorily, "All right, all right, all right." The three of them, including Yushuan, gathered around and used all their strength to lift the wolf. They shouted, "All right. 1, 2, 3, why do I have to do this crap?" "Hey," the slave comforted him, "thanks. I'll reward you." Yushuan complained, "Of course. You better keep your word. And hey, why is it so heavy? Did it give birth or something?" He calculated. 4 portions of meat should be enough, right? The other two heard this and felt something wasn't right. 4 portions. Hey, there's another kid too. Delicious dishes were being brought out. The wine in the cups was always full to the brim. At the highest point of the pavilion, 2 men stood observing everything. One of them was the Sword King Nangong Khan, the former head of the Nangong family. He listlessly propped his chin on his hand and complained, "I'm bored to death." The other was Nangong Ba, the current head of the Nangong family, and also his son. He nagged worriedly, "Father, the situation in Anhui is chaotic, because the Zuo family was annihilated. Now if the Sword King makes an appearance, wouldn't that help stabilize the situation?" Nangong Khan sighed. "It's that old story again." Nangong Ba raised an eyebrow and retorted, "The Zuo family was originally a branch of the Nangong family. The head was Zuo Duo, a distant relative of Nangong Ba, considered a respected elder on the council." Nangong Khan gritted his teeth in annoyance. "I know that. I met that Zuo kid a few times. He was quite sharp. But now that people know that Duo colluded with the demonic path," Nangong Ba confidently declared, "The Nangong family, we must prove that we are the pillar of the righteous path. We have nothing to be ashamed of." The old man stretched and laughed heartily. "Ha ha! What's the big deal? Some weaklings fight and die. It's a common thing. You always overreact to everything. Weren't you furious for days? Just because you lost a cricket fight." He held his forehead in exasperation. "Father, how can you compare the Zuo family's situation to a cricket fight? Besides, that was so long ago." "Father, grandfather." On the corridor, the sound of gentle footsteps suddenly approached. Both turned at the same time and saw an incredibly beautiful woman. None other than Nangong, Yun, the eldest young lady of the Nangong family. She carefully clasped her hands and announced, It's time for the banquet. As soon as Nangongbaa saw that the newcomer was his daughter, his fatherly love switch automatically flipped on. My lovely daughter is here. Father Yoon has grown up a lot, hasn't she? Nangongkan added with satisfaction. Indeed. Did you meet anyone you liked at the academy? If the old man hadn't said anything, it would have been fine. But once he said that he was destined to be drowned in the spluttering spit of Nangongbaa. No, father. She's still young, why are you talking about marriage? Nangongkan cleaned his ear in annoyance. So noisy. He thought Nangong Yoon would refuse, but unexpectedly she nodded in agreement with him. Father-grandfather is right. I should get married soon to become a pillar of support for the family. He immediately became flustered and advised against it. Even so, thinking about marriage now is still a bit... Nangongbaa suddenly covered his mouth in horror. Don't tell me you're secretly seeing someone. Nangong Yoon calmly denied it. I am not. But after graduation, it's a different story. I'm just preparing in advance. Nangongkan seized the opportunity and shouted, showing his support for her. If you want to find a husband, you should look a little further. Don't pick any of these dull, slow guys around here. Namgongbak miserably tried to stop him. No way. I will be the one to choose a husband for Yoon. Namgongjian turned his face away in a huff, ignoring the two of them. Then you'll just pick another boring one, I'm sure. Namgongbak quickly changed the subject, to talk to his daughter. Anyway, Yoon, you haven't forgotten, have you? The blood oath ceremony is about to be held. Namgung Yoon slowly replied, yes, I remember. The blood oath ceremony. The blood from the neck of a large, fierce beast is collected in the bronze tray. Then everyone drinks it in turn. It's a ritual to form an alliance between friends and allies. Namgongbak placed his hand on her shoulder and instructed, your duty is to use the family's heirloom sword to draw the sacrificial blood into the tray. That is the most important role in this ceremony. Namgongbak showed a determined expression. I will do my best to bring more glory to the name of the Namgung family. Bring more glory. Namgongbak gently waved his hand. Good, then let's join the feast, father. You should get up now, too. At that moment, Namgongbak's eyes were suddenly drawn to the appearance of a group of people downstairs. He was attracted, especially since there was someone he knew among them. That woman, it's her again. Namgongbak respectfully clasped his hands and bowed to Namgongjeon. I'll be going first, father. Before leaving, he turned his head once more and called out Namgung Yoon's name. She answered, yes. Namgongbak's face was grim as he warned, that sword. You must not let anyone take it. Understand? Namgung Yoon stared blankly at the sword in her hand. Of course not. The screen switches to the scene at the guests' dining table. Someone had already started to stir up trouble. So this time it's not the Zhou family who's invited, but the Hyulma sect. Hey, I thought the Hyulma sect was the one who wiped out the Zhou family and the demonic path. But seeing them here, I guess not. The person sitting opposite casually chimed in with the other guy. Hey, say something that makes sense. The Hyulma sect has no money and no power. How could they wipe out both the Zhou family and the demonic path? Then they both burst out laughing. That's right. But they didn't notice that Jinan, sitting behind them, was trembling, clenching his fists in forbearance. Aiku looked at him with a sorrowful expression. Father. Just then, an arrogant voice suddenly rang out from the crowd. Why does everyone look so serious? Aiku and Jinan turned their heads in surprise at the same time. A familiar old figure approached. The guy leisurely stroked his white beard and said sarcastically, could it be that everyone is not satisfied with the terms of the treaty? I worked very hard to write it. The surrounding guests quickly flattered him. The man known as Namgung Paeseong, the Fire Palace elder of the Namgung family. It's no wonder the terms are so fair. You're the one who drafted them. Greetings, elder. We feel at ease being under the protection of the Namgung family. As for the treaty, the 3 conditions in it are actually all for the benefit of the family. Namgung, only the second condition mentions sharing the secret techniques with the affiliated organizations. The people here felt a great bitterness in their hearts. The old fox has appeared again, fair, hilarious, a money grubber who spares no one. Despite their inner indignation, however, they still had to force a smile on their faces, as if they were very grateful. Being chosen to learn the secret martial arts of Namgung is truly like a dream. Yes, Paesong said with a satisfied smirk. Yes, that's very good, and who is that? Seeing that he had been called out, Jinan and Aiku took the initiative to step forward and greet Paesong. Could it be the recently rumored master of the Hyulma sect? He's been rumored recently. Yes, elder. It's an honor to meet you like this. The guy playfully patted his shoulder. What honor? We'll be seeing each other often in the future. The matter of the Zhou family is truly regrettable, isn't it? Jinan firmly stated, Elder, I swear. I have absolutely nothing to do with the extermination of the Zhou family. He hadn't even finished speaking when the hand on his shoulder tightened its grip, as heavy as 1,000 pounds. Paesong cheerfully used the action to torture Jinan. Of course. Did I say you were involved? I invited you here precisely because I trust you. Today's blood oath ceremony will be a great opportunity for the Hyelma sect. When the Hyelma sect becomes stronger, after receiving the ultimate technique, the secret sword art of the Namgung family, won't you be able to pay the protection fee and still have a profit? The guy continued to turn and mock Aiku, who was standing behind. And since your engagement to the Zhou family has been broken, how about this? Instead of becoming someone's wife, why not try being a concubine? I heard that lately. Many young people prefer to be concubines of older, more powerful men, rather than the main wife of a powerless young man. Isn't that right? Peishong reached out to touch Aiku. Suddenly, an overwhelming force unexpectedly shot out, knocking away the guy's dirty hand. Along with it was Namgung Bek's heavy voice. You! What are you doing there? Peishong's face turned pale in an instant. Terrified, he didn't dare to move, before the powerful energy radiating from the man, who had just appeared. Family head. Peishong squinted his eyes in annoyance and thought, what an annoying troublemaker. The guy weakly opened his mouth to explain. It's nothing important. I just saw a familiar face among the honored guests, and we were just exchanging a few words. Namgung Bek angrily questioned him. I will be the one to decide whether it's important or not. I think I asked you what happened. The atmosphere was extremely tense. Peishong, however, was in the mood to burst out laughing. The guy calmly revealed to Namgung Bek, the family head seems quite tense before the big ceremony. She said she had a few questions about the oath. So I was just giving her some advice. He was suspicious. Is that so? Yes, Jinan stammered, bowing his head. Yes, that's right. Peishong cheerfully boasted, see, it's really nothing. You don't have to worry. All right, I'm leaving. Please feel free to chat. The moment he passed by Jinan, the guy whispered a threat in his ear. Today's unfinished conversation? I'll continue it next time. Namgung Bek frowned, following Peishong's retreating figure. He sighed wearily. He immediately regained his composure. He strongly clasped his hands and apologized to Jinan. If Elder Namgung Bek, Peishong said anything disrespectful, I'm sure he did. I apologize on his behalf to the master of the Hyelma sect. Jinan waved his hand in confusion. No. How can the family head apologize to someone like me? Namgung Bek was a little surprised. What's wrong with you? We are about to become close allies. I should at least apologize so that you can forgive the rudeness of Elder Nam. Namgung Bek, I too am a person with some manners. He turned to Go Aiku and declared, taking responsibility. It seems one of the old men of the main family said something rude to you. I also apologize to you for that. Aiku gently denied it. It's okay, I'm fine. Please don't worry about me. Seeing her polite, gentle demeanor and respectful attitude, he couldn't help but sigh in admiration. Is this the child? I heard. She ranked first in the academy entrance exam. Yongcheon. Her foundation is indeed very strong. She might become a worthy opponent, as well as a good friend to our Ion. Namgung Bek slowly praised Aiku good. Thank you for saying that. He raised his head and looked up at the towering spire. Is it already the hour of the dog? Namgung Eun arrived just in time and called out, Namgung Bek. Father. He nodded and introduced Aiku to her. My daughter, you've come at the right time. This is the daughter of the master of the Hyelma sect. Let's greet each other. The two beautiful young women gently bowed to each other. It's a pleasure to meet you. I am Namgung Eun. I am Go Aiku. The two also secretly sized each other up, with discerning eyes. Sharp, this is the girl. Go Aiku, the top student in the Yongcheon Academy entrance exam. Sword Blossom Namgung Eun, Senior Namgung Bek cleared his throat and asked Namgung Eun, are all the preparations complete? She replied confidently, yes, father, everything is ready. The sword in Namgung Eun's hand vibrated unconsciously. He was satisfied. He quickly shifted his attention elsewhere. Good, now finally. On the tower a wolf was hung upside down from a pole, surrounded by countless flickering flames. To reach the highest step, one had to cross a long flight of stairs. At this moment, all the signs indicated that it was time to perform the blood ritual. Namgung Bek leisurely walked up the stairs. Halfway up, he suddenly stopped. Then the sound of two hands clapping together rang out powerfully. Namgung Bek declared heroically, to all the brave comrades in province who have gathered here, today I, Namgung Bek, express my sincere gratitude. And witnessing this scene, the guests below in the banquet hall couldn't help but exclaim in admiration, what a grand display of power. Namgung Bek slowly continued, we have all drawn our swords for the belief in justice and balance. But what is the reality? In the north, the believers cause trouble. In the east, there are the barbarians. And in the west, the demonic cult is rampant. And the power of the Murim alliance, which was supposed to stop them, is weakening day by day. So today, starting with this oath, we will become one. And we will protect the justice and balance that we have preserved for generations. As soon as Namgung Baek finished speaking, he resolutely raised his hand high as a symbol of charging forward. In the next second, a series of other hands in the crowd also rose in agreement and cheered. Namgung Clan! Namgung Clan! Namgung Clan! The screen switches to a scene of continuous drumming. Namgung Yoon's figure slowly approached. She held her sword with a solemn expression and set foot on the stairs. Namgung Yoon quickly crossed each long step and approached Namgung Baek. He ordered his daughter to go. She nodded gently. In the next second, she used her fastest speed to leap to the highest step of the stairs. Namgung Yoon only stopped when her shoes reached the destination. She observed carefully the beast's corpse hanging upside down before drawing her sword. Namgung Yoon closed her eyes and began to feel the power from the sharp weapon. The sword of Namgung is my sword. Today right here, I will give it my all and bring glory to the name of Namgung. She suddenly opened her eyes wide and jumped up into the air. Her skilled arm swung out with brilliant sword strokes. Namgung Yoon gracefully switched between her sword and scabbard. The way she used her breath was also extremely proficient. Now, a breathtakingly beautiful performance that shocked the guests. He was shocked. They gasped, unable to believe their eyes. Namgung Yoon took a deep breath and tightened her grip on the sword in her hand. Now the final part of this ritual. She closed 2 fingers and lightly pressed them against the sharp blade. Namgung Yoon made up her mind. At the tip of this sword I will place my entire life. The peerless sword of the wide sky, the eternal dance. The one and only sword stroke. The tip of her sword, without hesitation, was aimed at the wolf's temple. Without realizing it, someone was waiting with a triumphant smile. She fell for the trap. First, a bloody hand burst through the wolf's stomach. Then it reached up. Finally, a man, intentionally wearing a wolf's head to disguise himself, completely burst out. At that moment, Namgung Yoon suddenly remembered her father's words. Sword, don't let anyone take it from you, okay? Namgung Yoon didn't have time to react. She was immediately choked by the opponent. The sword also fell from her hand unconsciously. She stared in terror. What just happened? Someone from inside the wolf's stomach? Impossible. Is this a dream? But no, the choking sensation was real. More importantly, where is the holy sword? Namgung Yoon wanted to touch the holy sword, but she saw the scabbard leave her hand and was falling in midair. Namgung Yoon's heart felt like it stopped beating. The man in the wolf's skin caught the scabbard. He casually brought it close to Namgung Yoon's neck. He even aggressively threatened her. Now I will press your pressure points. If you resist, I'll cut off your ear first. Namgung Yoon whimpered in fear, making sounds of it's in pain. That sound startled Namgung Baek, who was standing below. He turned his head in panic. The surrounding crowd murmured, "What is that? What just came out of that wolf?" I'm sure it looked like a person. No way, it was probably just its guts spilling out. Namgung Baek immediately entered a combat stance. He resolutely ran up the stairs to check on his daughter's condition. Yoon's energy is scattered. What happened up there? However, when he saw the object that had just fallen down the stairs, Namgung Baek's eyes widened and he froze. It's the scabbard of the holy sword. In the next second, a cold voice rang out from above his head. Listen, you of the Namgung clan. Namgung Baek was startled and raised his head, looking towards the top of the tower. He anxiously yelled his daughter's name, Yoon, you murderer. Release my daughter immediately. Suji under the wolf's skin indifferently emphasized, I have 2 demands. The first demand is... He impatiently cut him off. You monster, didn't you hear me? Release my daughter first. Namgung John angrily scolded Namgung Baek. Be quiet for a moment. I can't hear anything. Namgung Baek's face contorted in anger. His father calmly reassured him. Son, don't be so hasty. Even though you've inherited the position of clan head, why can't you fix that habit? If he was going to kill the girl, he would have done it already. He must want something, so he went up there, right? Suji smirked. You're smart. The old man Namgung Jeon smiled sarcastically. Thank you, young man. He held the back of Namgung Yoon's neck tightly, preventing her from escaping. He held a sword to her throat and threatened. Good. If anyone tries to stop me again, I'll slit this girl's throat first. Namgung Baek gritted his teeth in panic. Suji then formally stated again. As I said, I have 2 demands. First, today's oath is cancelled because it's unfair. The crowd below the tower murmured after hearing this. Meanwhile, Suji continued to talk nonstop. The Namgung clan, the pillar of the righteous faction, has entered into a despicable and unjust contract. Therefore, the great cause cannot stand. Second, the person who created this pact must be killed. If you bring that person to this altar, I will release this girl without a single scratch. Namgung Baek cautiously raised his hand to voice his opinion. Suji motioned for him to speak. Namgung Baek hesitantly revealed, the treaty will be amended to be fair, but to kill the person who created the treaty, it is unacceptable. His face darkened, and on his lips, a sinister smile immediately appeared. Before you say it's unacceptable, He immediately yelled straight at Paseong's face, who was hiding in the crowd. "Why don't you ask him first?" The guy, seeing himself suddenly called out, was startled and pointed at him, cursing wildly. "You monster! You think the Hagung clan will be swayed by your cunning words." Suji just nonchalantly declared, "If you come up here, I will release this woman safely." Paseong screamed in desperation, "You crazy bastard, a hostage exchange! You're going to seal my martial arts, that's ridiculous." Suji poked his head out from behind Namgung-yoon and asked, "When did I say I had to seal your martial arts?" "What?" Paseong raised his head blankly. Suji confidently affirmed, "You don't have to seal your martial arts, because I just need to beat you to death." He pointed his sword at him. His whole body seemed to be engulfed in a bright red, bloody color. "So stop talking nonsense and get up here now." At that moment, the snake eyes. Paseong behind Namgung-baek yelled, "Clan head, I'll go. I'll go up there and save Namgung-yoon." But Namgung-baek didn't say a word. Everyone, seeing him just standing there, started whispering to each other. No way is he really going to go up there. His granddaughter's life is in danger. Of course he'll go, even so. Meanwhile, Namgung-baek clenched his fists. He thought angrily to himself, "I can't fall into that demon's trap." But at this rate, Namgung-yoon, and if it's the old elder for the rest of his life. He pulled himself out of his thoughts. He turned to Paseong and said, "All right, go up." Paseong, hearing this, couldn't help but exclaim in panic, "Huh, what?" The guy gritted his teeth and cursed silently in his head. "Damn it, this crazy clan head. I said I'd go, but why did he agree so quickly? That guy would never do this, if he didn't have something up his sleeve. Just letting me go up like that." Everyone around also looked at Paseong and said, "A decision for his granddaughter." As expected, I feel sorry for the kid, having to face an elder of the Namgung family. Paseong was thinking with a headache. These guys really don't know what I have to endure. Then from a distance, a voice rang out, attracting his attention. "Paseong, you lazy old man." "Yes," Namgung-jan yelled from behind, urging him on. "How much longer are you going to take? Get this old man up here now." Paseong was so panicked that he stammered in his reply. "Yes, great clan head, I'm coming right up." Namgung-jan, hearing this, burst out laughing and said, "It's been a long time since I've had so much fun." At that moment, Paseong ran forward. His anxiety was clearly visible on his face. Damn it, to be led around by some nobody like this. If it's come to this, I'd rather... Paseong gave a murderous glare, straight at Suji, who was tying up Namgung-yoon. The guy secretly calculated a plan. He's wearing a beast's skin, but I can tell he's not an adult yet. If you're not a master of rejuvenation, I'll kill you with my own hands. At the same time, Suji also stared at him and thought, finally we meet. Namgung Paesong, the man who was at the top of my kill list, because you were involved with Gyeouk. You covered up the massacre of the Hyelma sect, without any investigation. At that moment, Paesong spoke up and asked, what are you going to do now? But in Suji's mind, he was thinking, to avoid trouble. You then pursued Go-Aiku, and left her with a fatal wound. And after I wiped out the remnants of the 5 Venoms cult Hong Gong, you spread slanderous rumors, to turn me into the public enemy of the martial arts world. Suji asked Paesong, I heard from the butchers at the slaughterhouse that you were the one who ordered the capture of these wolves. Is that right? The guy heard and nodded in reply. That's right, catching the mother wolf is enough. He then asked the guy, why did you catch the wolf cubs too? Paesong answered, is there a reason not to? Dangerous species. Must be completely exterminated. If you let it live, later, it will become a beast that holds a grudge against humans. Suji chuckled to himself and replied, I know. After speaking, he thought angrily, your persistence and cruelty haven't changed at all, whether in my past life or this one. You and I cannot coexist. Then he walked over to the wolf, stood in front of it and said, I'm sorry I have to do this to that old snake. He emphasized I will send him to hell. As soon as he finished, he used his hand to directly poke Namgung-yoon's pressure point, causing her to cough a few times. She screamed, you villain! You dare to do this in the middle of the Namgung family home? And you think you can escape? Suji quickly replied, I can. Just this one word from him made her scream in shock. What? Before Namgung-baek's angry shout of Namgung-yoon, and the blank stares of Namgung-jan and the disciples, Namgung-baek screamed even louder. Namgung-eun when he saw her and Suji's lips touch. And then the two of them broke apart. Namgung-eun quickly coughed in pain, repeatedly spitting out blood. She trembled and cried out pitifully like that. But Suji just wiped his lips and yelled, Are you all right? Namgung-baek shouted in shock, What did you do? This wasn't part of the deal. Suji grabbed Namgung-yoon's shoulder. He said, I didn't hurt her. I just gave her poison. I didn't break my promise. Then he quickly threw Namgung-yoon straight forward before the astonished gaze of Paesong. Namgung-baek below saw his daughter flying through the air. He yelled, Namgung-eun. Then without hesitation, he used his abilities. to jump onto the nearby rooftops to catch Namgung-yun. As soon as he caught Namgung-yun, he observed that her internal energy was in disarray. It seems to be some kind of energy-scattering poison. A poison that even I can't recognize. Who is that demon really? And then he yelled, ordering the disciples, "Doctor, call a doctor quick." The disciples there immediately obeyed. "Yes, clan head." Immediately, Namgung-baek ordered the other disciples, "The rest of you catch him." At that moment, Suji took a small vial from his person. He gently swung it in the air. And then he loudly proclaimed, "This is the antidote. If anyone else steps onto this altar, or if you Namgung Paseong try to run, this vial of medicine will be crushed immediately." The disciples standing there went crazy and screamed, "You're so despicable!" In a flash, Suji drew a weapon. He held the weapon tightly in his hand. Observing the weapon, Paesong asked fearfully, "That staff? Your relationship with the demonic money collector of the demonic cult alliance? What is it?" Suji began to prepare his attack. He told the guy, "You don't need to know." Paesong bowed his head slightly and said, "Without any warning, this madman..." As soon as Suji's weapon slammed into the ground, Paesong quickly dodged the attack. The guy coughed and said in a loud voice, destroying the whole altar with just one blow, while Suji was constantly moving on the pieces of debris floating in the air. Paesong seemed to have realized who he was. The guy yelled, "So it's you!" "Now I understand. It was you. The one who wiped out the Zhou family and the Hykdo sect." Without a moment's hesitation, he gripped the sword in his hand and unleashed a technique. Three-layered abyss. Because he was hit by Paesong's technique, Suji immediately dropped his weapon from his hand. It seemed he would be in a difficult situation, but Suji, as quick as lightning, had already pulled out a spare blade. He aimed straight for Paesong's unguarded position. Because he was so surprised, the guy could only block it with his hand. But that one blow from him was quite strong, causing the guy to cough once. And so Seong once again had deployed the same technique as before. But Suji had already guessed his scheme. He immediately jumped up to dodge the blow. Paesong yelled in anger, "Damn it, this cowardly rat!" As soon as he felt him jump back to attack him, Paesong's eyes widened and he exclaimed, "You guys, you're trying to sneak attack me cunning but too predictable." But then, because he was dodging Suji, Paesong didn't notice at all that he had set a trap under the guy's feet. The guy, just by dodging, had stepped on the flying daggers, startling the man. Baeseng immediately clutched his leg, screaming in pain. From behind, Suji told him to do it right. "You need the antidote, don't you?" Baeseng shot back, "You coward!" using cheap tricks, instead of fighting fair and square. He retorted, "With cowards I don't fight fair." With that, he held his weapon, scratching his head, wondering what to say. But in the end, his conclusion was still to walk straight up to Baeseng and call out coldly, "So what?" In a flash, a massive blow was struck down on the ground, creating a tremor with thick billowing dust. All the Namgung disciples witnessed this scene and couldn't help but be horrified, exclaiming, "The altar is collapsing. All warriors of the Namgung family, protect the family head and his relatives." They quickly approached Gungtron to ask, "Former family head," but the old man waved them away. They seemed to understand, nodded once, and stood still. The old man then mumbled, "Just look at that. A greenhorn kid with this much internal energy. 3 levels of the abyss, is it?" After speaking, the old man revealed a delighted smile and thought to himself, "This bastard is a real riot." Meanwhile, back to the battle between Baeseng and Suji. Suji then said loudly, "This is fun." Baeseng saw his expression and said, "Are you looking down on me, you?" The man quickly grabbed his sword back, then used his ultimate move with a roar. "You arrogant punk." Although Baeseng's attack was heading straight for Suji, he still calmly said, "I already told you." He proclaimed with imposing confidence, "I have more than enough to take you down." Just like that, with a single move from Suji, a series of darts were unleashed in a flash, deflecting Baeseng's own move and heading straight for the man. Without a moment's hesitation, he used his sword to block them. In his mind, he was thinking, crazy. His martial skill is profound, but his fighting style is so crude. Where the hell did a guy like this crawl out from? And why does he hold such a grudge against me? It doesn't matter anymore. If I can't kill this guy. At that moment, he could only think of one thing. But it's so boring. Boring, I'll die. So he didn't hesitate to use his ultimate technique, Endless. On a flow of the sky, Suji saw the man's attack about to hit him, and immediately somersaulted forward. Baeseng said to himself, a lazy roll, a powerful lazy roll on the ground. A clumsy yet fierce roll. He roared, a move that every martial artist is ashamed to use. But you, I knew you'd pull a trick like that. However, Suji was no slouch either. He scratched his own shoulder. A large amount of his blood coated his hand. Then Suji gracefully spun into an attack stance. In a flash, he built momentum and flung the drops of blood forward. Those drops of blood fell like rain and pierced through Baeseng's offensive layer. Some drops of blood even flew into Baiseng's mouth, while he was still laughing loudly and saying, "Just let yourself be torn to shreds and die." While he was clutching his mouth, coughing violently, a shockwave erupted before his eyes, sending dust flying everywhere. Baiseng then breathed out a cloud of red smoke. He screamed, "What is this poison?" With every passing second, his eyes grew paler. The disciples below heard the groans and painful cries from above, and couldn't help but look up in shock. They said to each other, "Is that the elder's voice? I can't see anything because of the smoke." At that time, Goomba silently prayed in his heart, "Hang on a little longer." A moment later, the smoke above cleared. The disciples clamored, "The smoke is clearing. Is the elder safe?" Up there, Suji suddenly lost his footing. He had to quickly use his weapon as a staff to support himself. Suji sighed and thought, truly the Namgung clan. No matter how rotten it gets, it's truly dangerous. But at that moment, Baiseng was also collapsing, coughing continuously. Suddenly, Suji remembered old Gu's words. One who masters the indomitable demonic arts is called an indomitable one. The blood of an indomitable one is poisonous to most martial artists because it burns and drains the internal energy of others. Then he silently calculated, my level is still low, so the effect doesn't last long. But for you it should be shocking enough. And then he threw out the vial containing the antidote in front of Baiseng. He told the man, choose. Will you give your granddaughter the antidote or drink it yourself? Before Baiseng could even hear the end of it, he decisively shot forward and grabbed the vial in his hand. He immediately poured the contents of the vial into his mouth without stopping. This made Suji's eyes widen as he stared at the man. The disciples below and Goomba screamed. The elder drank the antidote. He thought angrily, what is he thinking? Baiseng, how dare that bastard? What about Lady Gungan? Right after that, Baiseng let out a satisfied cough and caught his breath. He thought happily, all right. As long as it's not poison, I can still find a way out of here. Suddenly, Suji spoke up, fool. What you drank was Song Clan poison. But within seconds, Baiseng's eyes turned completely white. He cried out in panic, what? I can't see anything. Suji just said, die slowly in the very sins you've committed. Lying on the ground, Suji desperately interrogated, what did you do to me, you monster? He was quickly submerged by streams of water from nowhere. Around Baiseng at that moment, only darkness surrounded him. Then a small flame appeared, saying smugly, you got what you deserved. Elder Baiseng, he questioned the person. Who are you, you bastard? The person replied, how could you forget me? Don't you remember taking bribes, burying alive the concubines you beat to death, then hunting down those who stood in your way as you climbed to the position of elder? Weren't all those things done by me? Hearing this, Baiseng suddenly realized who that person was. He let out a broken scream. You're Zhao Yodi, you're dead. The old man replied, dead. How could I go alone and leave you behind? Wasn't I one of the ones who contributed to helping you become an elder? Baiseng retorted loudly. Contributed you who doesn't know your place. Jawuk, you're just a hunting dog, that's all. You and the northern palace of the Namgung family, and all the vassal branch families under it, are all just my dogs. Duthai revealed a wicked smile and said, that's right. You made me do countless dirty deeds over the years. Thanks to that, I ended up meeting a madman, and was boiled like dog soup in that clay pot. Baiseng cried out in fear, you brought it on yourself. From the moment you joined the blood oath, you willingly became my dog. If you're a dog, then do your duty, and obey your master. Baiseng bit his tongue and used a technique. He didn't forget to warn Duthai, now scram back to the underworld. Duthai just smiled a meaningful smile. As for Baiseng, his face was now flushed red with anger as he glared at the old man. Duthai informed him, you'll be following me soon enough. For the rest of your life. This place is cold and lonely. Come here, prepare yourself properly. Baiseng mumbled. Who cares the words of a vengeful spirit? Back in reality, Baiseng then coughed up a pool of blood. He looked ahead in confusion. My eyes. I can see again. What was that just now? A hallucination. But while he was still dazed, a sharp voice echoed from afar, calling his name Namgung Baiseng. Baiseng looked down below and roared, you down there! Is anyone there? Please save me from this madman. Baiseng clenched his teeth and growled, didn't you hear me? Goomba from below uttered each word with biting scorn. Baiseng, how dare you? You knew that was the antidote to save Gungan, and yet you drank it. Baiseng quickly explained, family head. It was a desperate situation. Even the Namgung disciples were enraged. Adding on, Elder Baiseng, were the words you just said true? That the Namgung family views the organizations bound by the blood oath as nothing more than hunting dogs. We are not the Namgung family's dogs. What have you been doing using the deceased Zhao Uk? Say something. Baiseng fearfully backed away, stammering, no, I. Just then Suji spoke up. When poisoned by the Song clan, your eyes, nose, and ears will go blind. but your mouth remains intact. You know the reason best because you just experienced it. Hearing this, Baiseng turned and cursed him, "You bastard." But before he could do anything, Suji gave him a straight punch to the mouth with some advice. The root of all evil lies at the tip of the tongue. A perfect saying for trash like you. Baiseng clutched his mouth, which was now bleeding profusely, and tried to escape from Suji. That very tongue turned me into an enemy of the entire martial world and forced my sworn brother to live a life on the run. You even dared to stab me and my sworn brother with a sword. He ran into a dead end, unable to escape, but still stubbornly argued, "What nonsense are you talking about? I never did that." Suji raised the sharpened stone he had prepared long ago, without any mercy. "You did, you just might not remember it now." The next second, he forcefully stabbed the arteries all over the man's body. "I don't know who you are or who your sworn brother is." Suji wasn't done yet. He continued by pulling out a larger wooden club. "You don't need to know in this life." He used all his strength to cripple the left leg of the man lying on the ground, despite the piercing screams of pain. From a distance, the voices of dozens of people echoed in unison. By the time they managed to arrive, Baiseng had nearly lost all his strength. "Please stop! Help!" He didn't bother to turn and look at the group, his voice a warning. "If you take another step, I'll finish him off immediately. He might not look like much, but he's still a hostage." The soldiers gripped their weapons tightly, but none dared to make a reckless move. Baiseng, waiting for him to pause, tried his best to lift his head, searching for a final glimmer of hope. "So you'll spare me?" He said nothing, and directly grabbed the man's long beard. Immediately after, without mercy, he swung the sharp club straight at the man's head, as if the soldiers who witnessed this gruesome execution were all terrified to their core. Suji gripped the beard of the man he had just finished off and dragged him a few steps. He walked straight into the palace and threw the lifeless body onto the ground. The entire body slammed down, and blood once again flowed like a spring. Elder Aiku, who was standing next to her, witnessed the entire event and couldn't help but feel the urge to vomit immediately. My God, to think an elder of the Namgung family would be defeated like this. Is the 3 levels of the abyss really that strong? She looked up in confusion at the one who had just committed this heinous act. Again, the 3 levels of the abyss. Could this really be a coincidence? Suji from above also looked straight into her eyes. He looked at the only girl, standing in the courtyard, and thought to himself, "So my brother's grudge is settled. Now live the life you desire." A person from Aiku's side walked over and reached out to feel the pulse of the person who had just been executed. He shook his head, his face full of helplessness. Goomba had just arrived at that moment, listening to his subordinate's report. "Elder Baiseng is dead. He was a high-level master. I can't believe something like this would happen right here in the Namgung family." The people standing in the courtyard hurriedly readied their weapons, aiming straight at Suji. Goomba clenched his teeth in anger. "Keep your promised 3 levels of the abyss." Suji first looked him over, not replying in a hurry. Right after that, he looked at the girl lying half dead on the poison in my blood lasts for about an hour. The poison in Gungan's system will dissipate soon enough. But I can't just obediently say that out loud. He picked up the vial and held it high in the air. Goomba looked in that direction, his face full of vigilance. "What do you intend to do? Everyone here saw that it was poison. Are you going back on your word?" Suji opened the cap bit by bit, pouring out the liquid inside the vial. "If used in the right dose, it's a medicine. The dose is so small you have to use a needle tip and place it on the tip of the tongue." But his next sentence officially enraged the man. "There's not much medicine left." Goomba clenched his teeth, trying to calm down and assess the situation. "I can't completely trust him, but I can't completely distrust those words either. This situation?" Calming himself a bit, he reached out his hand towards him. "All right, I understand. Give it here, hurry, and I'll spare your life." He capped the vial in his hand, his voice still mocking. "If you don't pick it up fast, it'll all spill out." The very next second, Suji flicked the vial in his hand, sending it flying backward. The vial then slowly fell from the cliff's edge. The people standing below looked like they wanted to eat him alive. "Suji, the antidote." Goomba quickly ordered, "Find it now, we have to save Iyun." The soldiers immediately rushed in that direction. Then he continued to order another group of soldiers. "Special task force, get the antidote. The rest of you, capture 3 levels of the abyss." Suji wasn't foolish enough to just stand there and hold out his hands for them. He knelt down to prepare his escape. "The full siege of the Namgung family is truly formidable. But if I was going to let myself be caught, I wouldn't have done this in the first place." The very next second, he flew through the group of soldiers, simultaneously taking them down, then flew straight towards Goomba. "You bastard, 3 levels of the abyss." Suji, far from being angry, kindly pointed in the opposite direction. "You better go look for it. That was the last of the antidote." The man's entire body emitted a green flame of anger. If anything happens to Yun, I will hunt you to the depths of hell and execute you with my own hands. Suji took the opportunity to run in the opposite direction. Suit yourself. The other soldiers quickly gave chase. Stop 3 levels of the abyss. How dare you do such a thing in the middle of the Namgung? And still think you can escape? He rushed past the crowd, then flew up before their astonished eyes. Everyone stared after him wide-eyed. My God, what kind of unbelievable lightness skill is that? Is 3 levels of the abyss really that strong? Daring to use my men as a ladder, you bastard. Suji flew away from there, trying to escape as fast as possible. Almost there. Now all that's left is only the highest outer wall of the Namgung family estate. He aimed straight for his target, calculating carefully. Just have to get over it and I'm safe. Suddenly, Suji was ambushed from behind without a chance to defend himself. His head was immediately sent flying from his neck, tumbling forward. He clenched his teeth, trying to turn his head to see who had just ambushed him. This is insane. But right after, he immediately regenerated. If I step out here, Suji used all his strength to push off that wall in one go. I'm dead for sure the moment I leave the fortress. Suji immediately stopped and looked at the one who had just ambushed him. Damn it. In my past life, I thought he had withdrawn and gone into seclusion. I never thought he'd appear in a place like this. This is the worst. The former leader of the Martial Alliance, the living legend of the old martial world. That person stood on top of the wall, laughing mockingly. Gungtron slung a large sword over his shoulder sarcastically. You've got good instincts, kid. Sword King Namgung Cheon. Suji instinctively raised his hand to the spot on his neck that had just been cut. The former leader of the Martial Alliance, the living legend of the old martial world. If I had taken one more step just now, my head really would have been severed from my neck. Despite that, Suji couldn't help but admire him. Truly the heart sword. Gungtron didn't wait for his reply and continued to call out, Hey kid. The old man pointed towards the exit. Why aren't you leaving? Suji retorted without holding back. You're emitting killing intent. Right, and also, right behind him, the guards had arrived and completely surrounded him. Not leaving. The old man leaped from where he was standing. I'm leaving right now. The very next second, he landed right next to the dying Gungan. This is no time to be leisurely. Suji watched the old man's next move, his face full of anger, mixed with confusion. Gungtron summoned his power and shouted loudly, Ha! The old man transferred a stream of vital energy into Gungan. The power was absorbed by her body. Immediately after she spat out a mouthful of black blood, she was finally able to breathe on her own again. She should be fine now, my lady. Her color has returned. Take her inside to her room quickly. The old man leisurely continued to carry the large sword and walked towards Suji, laughing cheerfully. So that's that, right? He stood still, silently calculating. From the very beginning, he could have used his absolute internal energy to detoxify Namgung, Yun, and block all of my moves. The fact that he didn't do so and only acted now, if you intended to kill me, you would have done it immediately. You're doing this because you want something else. Gungtron casually stroked his beard, his voice slightly surprised. The old man laughed loudly, not bothering to hide his intentions. Smart kid. Suji, not at all intimidated, immediately replied, Thanks, old man. Gumpa's voice rang out, ordering all the soldiers in the courtyard. Now capture that villain, tie him up alive. He used to walk forward, his anger still raging. Gumpa, his face ice-cold, growled word by word, and bring him before me. Just as they were about to gang up on him, another voice rang out. By your command. Stop right there. Gumpa couldn't hold back and yelled, Father! Why are you doing this? That man is... The old man cut his son off. All of you let that kid get away. Only I managed to catch him. Don't spoil my fun. This is the most fun I've had in almost 25 years. Show a little filial piety, my son. As you can see, my word is law in the Namgung family. Even the emperor values my opinion more than others. Suji had been standing still all this time, not understanding why the old man was acting this way. Gungtron calmly stroked his beard, talking to himself. Speaking of which, should I make a new rule? What would be good? That's right. From now on, without my permission, no one is to leave the Namgung estate. After speaking, the old man laughed loudly, proud. Not allowed to leave. That's what he said. If I dig deep into the slums and hide, the probability of escape is 30%. It's risky. But if necessary, Suji gripped the staff in his hand tighter, but still didn't. Make a move. How do I ask for permission to leave? Gungtron suddenly held up 5 fingers towards him. The old man set the rules of the game. I'll give you a 5-move head start. I won't use my sword's only dodge. Feel free to go all out. The others in the palace had no choice but to obey the order, backing away to make room for them. Whispers echoed endlessly from the surroundings. Unbelievable. The Sword King is using the word head start and only giving 5 moves. Does he rate 3 levels of the abyss that highly... Suji stared intently at the old man before him, unable to help but calculate. 5 moves. He means I have to give it my all to please him. But for me, there's no reason to refuse. The very next second, he stepped into a ready stance, prepared for battle. A demonic red aura emanated from his entire body. Gungtron not in a hurry, his voice seemed pleased. As I expected. My eyes were not mistaken. Suji said nothing, and charged straight at the person in front of him. Try to entertain me as much as you can. First move. A black magical vortex appeared. The surrounding soldiers were also affected quite a bit. It's pulling me in. The staff in his hand flew straight towards Gungtron's position, carrying with it a strange power. The old man's eyes immediately turned blue and emitted a strange light at the same time. Quick as a flash, the old man dodged the deadly attack. The staff flew past, then crashed straight into the large pillar behind, causing the pillar to gradually collapse. Its collapsing dodge, Suji flew back to his original position. His whole body trembled in waves, but he didn't attack again. He stopped and looked straight at Gungtron. The old man, not quite understanding that reaction, asked directly back, "What's the matter?" He pointed to the sword that had been resting on the old man's shoulder. "Your sword. You said you wouldn't draw your sword." Gungtron was now flustered, looking at the sword held firmly in his hand. "Wait, why is it like this?" The old man quickly explained, "Actually, at my level, using a sword is more natural than using my hands. It just moves on its own. When you get to my age, you'll understand. Besides, I've been so forgetful lately." He silently assessed the reaction. "A senile old man like you is better than a promise breaker, right?" Gungtron coughed lightly a few times, trying to regain his dignity. "Your first move was just a probe, wasn't it?" The old man, a bit flustered, wanted to reduce the count to apologize. "How about we take one move back?" Suji stopped him, getting ready for the next attack. "No need, Gung." Tron seemed very pleased with his reaction. "I knew you'd say that." "Then now I will truly receive it, without using my sword anymore. Then I'm really looking forward to the remaining 4 moves." Suji continued to attack. "Sword King Namgung Cheon!" A solid wall. That worldly weapons like hammers, chisels, or iron maces cannot overcome. I must focus all my strength into a single staff. Suji crouched down, gathering momentum, and lunged forward, overcoming the 10 steps of the Thunder God. The spot where he just stood immediately cracked and shattered from the immense force of his leg. The power of Yun. Gungtron seemed slightly surprised by the next technique. If I had known this was coming, I shouldn't have held back on the 3 techniques. Second move. The old man clenched his fists, his whole body preparing to dodge the move. Gungtron spun with an incredibly fluid motion. The very next second, the old man firmly grasped the staff, which was about to smash straight into his head. At lightning speed, Suji instinctively retreated a great distance. Gungtron then stopped, but his sleeve cuff was also singed. He looked at his own sinewy hand and smiled with satisfaction. There's a saying, even a brush of sleeves creates a fateful bond. "Looks like we have a sturdy fate." He promptly replied without courtesy, "A sturdy fate we can do without." Gungtron held up 3 fingers towards the person opposite him, signaling, "Even if you refuse, our fate still has 3 more moves." This time he raised the staff over his head, gripping it tightly with both hands. The staff was slammed down, carrying an immense force. Suji charged forward, continuing his attack. Third of 3 techniques. This time, Gungtron finally felt some difficulty in blocking the blow. If the last move was a hook, then this move is like a giant battering ram. The old man again used his bare hands to try and stop the tip of the staff that was hurtling towards him. Suji used all his strength, wanting to smash the staff straight into the old man's face. As soon as the technique ended, he immediately retreated to his initial ready position. Gungtron rubbed the arm that had just blocked the blow, feigning soreness. "That hurts. It's going to be tough on rainy days from now on." Suji looked at his own bleeding arm, saying nothing. Gungtron continued to ramble on. "Looks like you've been in the army. Did you learn staff no? Spearmanship on the battlefield against the barbarians? Yes, that's military spearmanship, but not in officers, the common soldiers. You've pushed the basic moves of spearmanship to the absolute limit, completely combat-oriented." After a moment of analysis, the old man finally came to a conclusion. "But this level should be impossible at your age." Suji was a little surprised that all his secrets were laid bare in just 3 moves. "You've seen through everything. What a troublesome old man." The old man held up 2 fingers towards him again. 2 more moves. I can still let the first move slide right now. How about it?" Suji twirled the staff in his hand, preparing to attack again. No need. This time, Gungtron finally needed a bit of preparation. The wind around him grew stronger, blowing the old man's beard into a tangled mess. This is getting more and more interesting. Suji spun the staff faster and faster, ready for the next attack. He once again stomped his foot hard on the ground. Immediately after, Suji's entire body shot towards the old man standing before him. He swung his staff, wanting to sweep away everything around him. Gungtron immediately put up both hands to block. His face seemed to grow more amused the more he blocked. He charged forward again, wanting to take down the old man with a single blow. Gungtron this time finally seemed unable to block it anymore, and groaned as he clutched his body. Suji attacked with all his might. His arm, as a result, was also covered in blood. The dark power immediately gathered, then flew straight into the courtyard, where they were standing. Ending the next move, the two retreated to their positions. Gungtron rubbed his smoking wrist. A good Wensu move in gun. My old bones are aching now. His whole body was also injured quite a bit. The red liquid flowed out, staining his entire shoulder. But very quickly, Gungtron had returned to his original state. Half a step. The voices of the people in the courtyard rang out again. Oh my God. Lord Sword King, one of the top figures, said to be closest to the celestial realm, pushed back half a step. Is that even possible? Who in the world is that young man? Gungtron snapped his fingers, signaling towards him. All right, so what's left now is... The old man prepared more carefully, ready to block one final move. Show me everything you've got. This time Suji didn't hold back, wanting to directly unleash his most powerful move. The power from the staff in his hand seemed to increase with each passing moment. He was also a bit surprised by this inseparable object. You've finally tamed Namgung Baiseng. With this move, now his entire body was as if he had just summoned a demon, ready to take down everything. Second level of Yun. Gungtron was finally completely surprised by the techniques of the person opposite him. His internal energy is even deeper. So, what he showed before wasn't even everything. What? Suji knelt on one knee on the ground in the next fighting stance, but he leaped powerfully into the air, then lunged towards the old man, wanting to smash his staff down from above. And this is a spear 5th of 5 techniques. The old man was a bit flustered. This is bad. Right after that, Gungtron immediately broke the rules, wanting to draw his sword to fight. The old man's eyes were terrifyingly white, just as Suji's staff was about to come crashing down on the old man's head. It was blocked by the sword. The two most powerful forces collided, creating an unparalleled light that blinded the entire area. The people standing around hurriedly used their hands to cover their faces, trying to defend themselves. A giant storm. Everyone be careful. The two of them still hadn't stopped, trying their best to eliminate the opponent. But to predict such powerful internal energy, worthy of the Sword King, Suji instinctively changed, something that the old man didn't expect. In that case, that internal energy. He immediately took advantage of the push from the old man's sword and jumped back. I'll use it against him. Suji's entire body shot backward, taking the opportunity to escape from the city. Goomba immediately flew to his side to ask for his opinion. Should we pursue him? The old man stood still, looking towards the one who had just escaped. Let him be. That fellow had a plan. To escape with his last move right from the start. Even if we did catch him, I wouldn't have the face to see him. The first move was a small mistake, but the last one wasn't. Goomba looked at the old man confused. Father, why did you use your sword at the end? The first time really looked unconscious, but the last time, the sword in the old man's hand broke in half. One half fell to the ground. Gungtron looked at the broken sword and explained, because I might have died. If I wanted to live, what other choice was there? Seeing the old man's broken sword, Gumpa rushed over. Father! Gungtron looked at the sword, now only half, and complained, if that kid's weapon was a spear, instead of a staff, I could have died. The old man began to speculate about his weapon. The black bamboo staff he carries was probably taken after defeating a demonic staff wielder. That guy definitely died by the spear. The old man threw the half-sword to the ground and consoled himself. Anyway, drawing my sword in the last move wasn't an accident. Isn't life more precious than pride? Gungtron stroked his beard, and suddenly burst out laughing. One mouth but speaking 2 or 3 different things, and being defeated by a kid time and time again. Even though he said that, he was still grumbling about it. This old man felt truly ashamed when facing the heroes of Anhui. I have no face left. Goompa looked at him without saying anything, but at this moment his expression seemed to be determined about something. He clasped his hands and spoke loudly for everyone to hear. The Namgung clan will resolve everything right here. He bowed his head and apologized to the witnesses there. Regarding what happened today, the clan will definitely compensate everyone. I sincerely apologize, but I hope to receive your understanding from all the heroes present here. Then Goomba shouted, the banquet has begun, that is all. Sturdy men were bustling about. Night had fallen, but Namgung was still brightly lit with lanterns. There was a voice from the rooftop. A 3-time oath to the heavens. Goomba was talking to his father. He said, a peak that no one knows the sect of. The relationship's age and even the face of that person. Who could that person be? The old man pondered for a moment before speaking. His fighting style is close combat. Gungtron was referring to someone. His cultivation technique is only third-rate. His martial arts have reached the pinnacle. His movements surpass all limits. His mental state is at the refinement stage. A truly elusive individual. Hearing the old man say this, Gumba felt helpless. To let someone like that live has tarnished the honor of the Namgung family. The old man leisurely lay down and asked Gumba, honestly, "Isn't this good for you?" He was surprised by his father's words. "Huh, why is this good for me?" The old man opened his eyes and explained, "Isn't that Baiseng?" That eyesore had his head smashed and died. He kept nitpicking every little detail, under the guise of the Council of Elders, and because he was a long-time servant of Father, nothing could be done. Hearing these words, Gumba said loudly, "Father, what are you talking about?" Faced with his outburst, the old man slowly closed his eyes and said calmly, "Always analyze the situation in a way that benefits you." Suddenly, the old man's eyes flew open, his state changing in an instant. It's true that Baiseng committed many transgressions. Remember to investigate thoroughly and compensate all the affected victims. While we're at it, we can blame Baiseng for all the mistakes the main clan has made. Gumpa broke out in a sweat and listened silently as the old man continued. Then the standing of the Namgung will be even higher than the honor lost today. Gungtron turned his voice chillingly low. In this blood oath ceremony, the beast chosen as the sacrifice, he also implicitly understood that his father's meaning was Baiseng himself. After a moment of thought, it seemed the old man remembered something. "Oh right, how is Yun?" Gumpa quickly reported the situation. "Yes, thanks to you expelling the poison from her body. She should have woken up by now." Hearing this, the old man ordered, "Then let Yun do it. Tell her to go and capture that Samchong Wangcheon alive." Gumpa asked worriedly, "Why does Yun have to do it?" Faced with that question, the old man didn't answer immediately. He asked back, "Well, why do you think?" Without waiting for an answer, the old man burst out in anger, shouting, "She's not even married, and she was already naked and held by another man. And mouth to mouth, too. Her future marriage prospects are ruined, so she has to go and capture her own groom." Although he feared his father, he still voiced his opinion. "Father, what era do you think this is? Besides, I've told you many times that she will choose her own husband." Hearing Gumpa say this, the old man clenched his teeth. That again, a son-in-law from a righteous sect. Don't limit your relationships and learning to just the orthodox path. That's the only way to survive the unpredictable changes of the martial world. The two men's viewpoints were in direct opposition. Gumpa spoke up. "The Namgung clan is a sturdy great tree. It won't be easily toppled by a few small ripples. The changes in the river and lake are nothing to us." Now the old man did not want to hear anything more. He asked again, "Do you really think so?" Gungtron said nothing and just let out a helpless sigh. The old man held his head. "The martial world is like the sea. When the sea is calm, it's nice to go fishing and have a drink. But when a storm hits, it becomes fiercely terrifying." Gungtron's expression changed, no longer hiding his normal face. Xinjiang has acted. He was surprised by the change faster than a chameleon's flower of his father. He asked again, "Xinjiang?" At this point, he also knew of this character. The pillar of the demonic world. Gungtron looked into the distance and ordered him, "Prepare for the change." At night, darkness enveloped the place. The old man said, "A great wave will soon rise." At another desolate place of the Huazhong sect, inside there were still people. A faint light shone through the window. Someone was holding something in their hand. It was Suji. He was visiting someone. He whispered, "Tiger brother, your revenge ends here." He turned his head away as if to control his emotions. "Now for the sake of Huazhong Sect 1. Suddenly, Suji's eyes snapped open. He seemed to feel a familiar memory. Past memories flooded back. At that time, Suji was fuming about his living quarters. Is the ground just mud? Growing up in a place like this is just unbearable. A voice replied. At the same time, straws fell on his head. "I know, so I brought this for you." Suji scowled, even more annoyed. "Seriously, Tiger brother?" Despite his grumpy attitude, Aiku was still cheerful. "Isn't this better than having nowhere to lie down? Come on, spread it out. We'll be fighting again tomorrow." "That makes sense." Suji could only agree. He began to glance at the straw mat. Suddenly, countless insects jumped out from inside. He instinctively fell back in fear, sending straw flying towards her. He shouted, "It's full of fleas." "You still brought this piece of garbage," Aiku explained. "As long as it's warm enough, it's fine, right?" He returned to reality, a smile unconsciously appearing on his face. He slowly brought the incense to the burning candle. As he lit it, he said, "In this life without knowing hardship, live well." The incense was planted, smoke billowing. He left the room. His shadow was cast on the ground. Suji stepped outside. Suddenly, behind him a voice came from nowhere, giving him goosebumps. "Stay put." It seemed someone had managed to get here. The person spoke up. How ridiculous. You think you can escape safely? Perhaps Suji's enemies had arrived. He was furious, his expression clearly saying, damn it. This is a pain. The group began to curse at him, trying to leave without a word. What bad luck. A fat man in the lead ordered him, go on. I won't see you off. Suji agreed without hesitation, at the same time reaching into a bush for something. All right. The other guy was sweating buckets. Where are you going? Suji answered coldly, to the west. Who would have thought the other guy was a mess of tears and snot? His face crumpled as if he were breaking up with a lover. Turns out these weren't Suji's enemies. They were probably just his fellow countrymen. Seeing him off, they sobbed, Hey! Then go, you heartless bastard, take care. Take care of yourself. If you have nowhere to go, come back to Hwajongmun any time. A young man among them wailed through his tears. Where else could you possibly go anyway? We'll be waiting, so you have to come back. You have to. Hearing this, Suji just chuckled to himself. Then he said nothing and jumped onto the roof. From behind, the fat guy was still calling out. And hey, where exactly in the west? Suji glanced back and replied, Genshi. After that, the sunset had given way to a gloomy night. Suji continued on his own, while lightning flashed in the sky. It was predicted that a downpour would soon follow. He looked up at the stormy sky. Suji thought to himself for a moment. As the first flashes of lightning struck, a voice called out from behind him, Stable boy. It was Aiku. She was panting and continued to call out, Stable boy. But in Suji's silence, Aiku didn't give up. Stable boy! But he still didn't answer. Just glanced back at her. Aiku clutched the command token in her hand, looking a bit sad. Stable boy, so you're Samjin Wangcheon. Banji is good with everyone else, but there are only two people he's afraid of. You and the person who paid for Kim's medicine for me on that rainy day. And it smells like horse manure here, too. Hearing this, Suji flinched. He pulled his clothes closer, which made her laugh. I'm just kidding. Then there was another silence. At that moment, the first raindrops began to fall. The atmosphere was so quiet, only the pitter-patter of rain could be heard. After a while, she finally spoke up. Thank you. Aiku recounted the times Suji had helped her. For lighting the moxa, those are still unforgettable memories for her. For letting me ride your horse. For listening to my worries. Suji remained completely silent. And the matter with Clan Head Du and the Black Blade sect. And the Ghost Staff incident. And what happened at the Namgung this time? You were involved in everything. Now I know. I'm very grateful and I'm curious why you helped me. But if you were going to tell me, you wouldn't have hidden it. Right. Suji seemed to silently agree. He didn't answer and just turned to walk away. Aiku immediately chased after him. Don't go! She tried to grab his sleeve. Aiku spoke through tears, her voice almost pleading. We're family. She had no idea that his eyes had turned red. But perhaps this time affection couldn't win. With the determination burning in Suji's heart, he pulled his sleeve away and left without a word. In that pouring rain, Aiku was still in shock, unable to believe it. You're leaving! She repeated, You're really leaving. His silence since a moment ago. It seemed to be the confirmation. Aiku, choked up, could only utter a farewell. Goodbye. Only now did Suji reply to her, take care. Aiku stood there, rooted to the spot for a few seconds. Then she ran after him again. Very quickly, Aiku caught up with Suji. She threw her arms around him. Suji didn't let go and stood still, letting her hug him. Aiku said, when we meet again, it will definitely be a new day. In the bamboo forest, there was a commotion. A series of soldiers glided by like the wind. They stopped and gathered at a location in the bamboo forest. This was the Wolja search team, a special operations team from Namgung. This time, Gungun was leading the team herself. She frowned, annoyed. She recalled Gungjon's instructions. Capture Samjin Guangchon and bring him back. You must bring him back alive. This time, Gungun paid special attention. I don't know why grandfather gave such an order, but this is perfect. I will definitely catch him. Tie him up in front of me and beat him if necessary, just like the first time, until his whole body is covered in blood. Suddenly, a soldier reported, startling her from her thoughts. My subordinate has found his tracks. The young lady was startled as if guilty. Gunjan suppressed her excitement, which was a bit unusual for her. She kept reminding herself, good. Don't think about anything else. I have to catch him first, I'll bet everything. After regaining her composure, Gungan ordered after him. As soon as the order was given, the entire team began a relentless pursuit. With the exceptional power and skill of this special unit, Gunjan was confident she would achieve her goal, no matter the cost. I'll make him kneel before me. In the middle of the mountain, a long river flowed across, dividing the land in two. Suji slammed half his foot on a rock, as if to temporarily halt his journey. He wiped his mouth and let out a small sigh. Suji looked at the bustling boats below and couldn't help but feel nostalgic. It's been a long time since I've been back here. Pasi. The water market. He walked silently down to the pier. Both sides were assaulted by the sound of bargaining. We've got catfish as big as boats here. The red lotus fish are filling the holds. Take them away. The red lotus fish are filling the holds. Take them away. All right? Before you go, have a bowl of gukbap, only 3 nyang. Suji sat down on an empty seat and threw a bag onto the table, signaling. 1 bowl of gukbap here. The shop owner blurted out, annoyed. What's that, a marten pelt? I only take money. His face was now flushed with anger. If you don't have money, don't eat. Suji looked up as if pondering the feasibility of this matter. In the midst of this dilemma, a blonde-haired girl rushed forward, coming to the rescue. Here's the money for the gukbap. Jiseon revealed 2 coins on the table and asked arrogantly, is that enough? The shop owner cheerfully returned to the kitchen to prepare the food. I'll only charge you 2 nyang, take it. When the dish was on the table, the little girl turned to Suji, curious. Mister, are you a beggar? He answered curtly, I'm not a beggar. But this little Gizeon was very honest and retorted, my mom says if you don't have money, you're a beggar. Suji decided to use a simple question to distract her. Kid, what's your name? The little girl tilted her head and introduced herself. At the same time, she unlocked a screen of rapid-fire questions. Baek Giseon. Mr. Beggar, where are you going, Hanyang? Where Hanyang is, that's where the Martial Alliance is. Why are you going there? Because there are a lot of bastards to kill there. This answer made Gizeon quite excited. So you're a martial artist too? Suji feigned surprise. You know about that too? The little girl shared honestly. Yes, my mom said Becky Dogi. The ones who brought my mom here are also martial artists. I heard martial artists are very strong. He nodded vaguely in response, I see. Suji pushed the mat towards Giseon and introduced himself. Thanks to you, I've eaten my fill. Here's the money for the gukbap. The little girl suddenly sighed like a little old lady. It's okay, a marten pelt is worth much more than that. Silly beggar. He answered persistently. But you should still pay for your meal. Giseon suddenly clasped her hands together to negotiate. Then please do me a favor. Getting to the main point, the little girl suddenly seemed nervous. If you meet any martial artist uncles later, please ask them something. Tell them, my mom is sick and please ask them to let her go ashore. I heard martial artists only listen to other martial artists. Suji readily agreed. That makes sense, if I meet them. Before he could finish, the shop owner rudely interrupted, Get going. Giseon jumped up in frustration. I already paid for the gukbap. What are you doing? The question should I still rang in his ears. But the shop owner, his face covered in blood, stammered, Please! Ha! It turned out the pirates had been there all along, and were now on a killing spree throughout the pier. Only the sounds of begging and arguing remained. Please spare us, gather everything you have, whether it's valuable or not. Surrender peacefully. Please spare us, Suji exclaimed with impatience. After mountain bandits, now water bandits. Giseon could only exclaim in shock, What? He tightened his grip on the weapon in his hand and confirmed with the little girl, Your name is Baek Gishan. Right, I'll accept. Giseon asked fearfully, What are you going to do? He asked back nonchalantly, What else? Suji launched a powerful attack, along with a friendly warning. At the pier, the old manager had broken through the encirclement to negotiate. Let me go, I want to talk to the leader. As the old man wished, someone finally had the patience to show themselves. I am Gongsan, Habek leader of the Changjiang Waterway Gang. Do you have something to say? The manager boldly asserted, That's right. The old man, his face beet red, roared about. His backer. Unlike those fishermen, I manage the Padang area. Don't you know that Baek Idogi is backing us? If you do this, Baek Idogi will not... Before he could finish, the old man's head blossomed. Gongsan held his downward slash pose and declared nonchalantly, They'll be quiet. Because Baek Idogi has already sold you to me. The workers, hearing the bad news, immediately erupted. Sold us Baek Idogi, no way. We were about to pay off our debt. They said if we just worked until the end of this year, they would let us go home. General. Please have mercy, I need to go ashore. Gongsun impatiently ordered, Hey! They're too loud, gag them. The man's henchmen silenced the others by sending them to sell salt. Gongsun observed with satisfaction, For fools who don't even know martial arts, your blood is just as red. As soon as he finished speaking, his gaze fell upon an interesting phenomenon. Even the water was splashing all over the place, causing Gongsan's underlings to stop what they were doing. Giseon followed Suji's footsteps closely, somewhat awkwardly. 2 clueless pirates rushed out gleefully, threatening, Hey kid, if you came to the market to buy something, you're too late. Once you step into posse, you and the kid behind you both belong to us. But Suji just waved his hand once, and both of them went flying like autumn leaves. The next second, he bled them both dry and sent them to see the naked chickens. Suji silently approached, condemning the water bandits. Your blood is red too. Gongsun, having his own words thrown back at him, was a bit taken aback. He propped his chin on his hand, contemplating, then came up with a countermeasure. Careful, he's not ordinary. Attack at the same time, archers forward. The henchmen shouted clearly. The archers, full of excitement, roared as they loosed their arrows. Turn him into a pincushion. Suji reached out and pulled down his bundle. He used it as a weapon to block the rain of arrows. All the arrowheads were absorbed by this strange bundle. Even Suji took the opportunity to throw back a bunch of hidden weapons, silencing the archers. Each and every one of them clutched their heads and screamed loudly. Seeing his underlings taken down in an instant, Gongsu also lost his composure a bit. He glared and questioned Suji, "Who are you and where are you from?" He responded by raising his weapon into a ready stance. Gongsu wisely chose to back down and proposed, "All right, let's not ask who the other is. So how about we each go our own way? If we fight, one of us will surely die. No, wouldn't it be better to avoid a war of attrition?" Suji slung the bundle over his shoulder and declared arrogantly, "The one who dies will be you. Whether my body remains intact or not." He launched a greeting attack at Gongsu and suggested, "How about a bet?" The man clenched his teeth and hissed in fury, "You bastard, a puppy that doesn't fear a tiger." Gongsu swung his saber down with a roar. "I'll make you regret this." But before the blow could land on its target, the man's hand was hit first. The saber was sent flying by the momentum. Gongsu felt a heart-piercing pain from his hand and heard Suji question him, "Regret me?" He straightened his appearance, then exclaimed with disgust, "Truly a water bandit. How fitting. Even if you fall into the water, only your mouth will stay afloat."